All right, welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm here with community member and a dear friend, Saint Peter, was one of the regulars, one of the stalwarts of our community, and he has been so generous to share his new watch with us. We have an interesting setup going on, a little bit different, since he is unlike me, the perpetual amateur. St. Peter is a professional, so he went with an interesting setup here. I don't know what
It's
that background is.
it's semi-pro. It's semi-pro.
Trust me, that's not. You are
Yeah,
not looking at his crotch right
yeah.
now. That's just a black backdrop.
You should have seen the first backdrop. I had to remove it because I was afraid you'd be censored if I left it on
Lava viva. That's
there.
really good.
I'll
Yeah,
send you. I'll
I,
send
li-
you.
I
I'll send
like,
you a picture of it. I'll send you a picture of it
I like.
in
It's nice.
private, and you could choose. You could choose to do with it what you will. Yeah.
Um,
So I got 80. I'm down to 83%
okay,
on this battery.
we are gonna milk that 83%. We're gonna go as long as we can. Um, I did, since we are supposed to drink, I'm sure you can show your drink in the
Hmm.
camera as well.
Hmm.
I got my scotch. I just got this bottle. Um, I was always afraid that it would be overrated. It's the Ardbeg 5-year-old, the one they call Wee Beastie. And, as it turns out, it's actually pretty good. I had opened it last night. No, the night before, in fact. Um, and, for these kinds of peated, smoky flavors, I think a young age statement is actually pretty good, because you really get the kick. Drop a few. I did put a few drops of water into it about half an hour ago, so it should be ready to go. I think Ozzy is gonna join us. So Ozzy, why don't you click the link? Nice.
A very cheap Tempranillo, but it's pretty tasty. I think this is like well, I don't know, very cheap, but it's like about $15.
We like bargains on this channel, so it's great.
Well, considering what I had to allocate yesterday, I need to go basically cheap or free for a while.
Look, I mean,
For a while.
I have been I've become vegan, um, so I could afford better watches. But this is actually the pieces that are already in his collection. St. Peter, do you want to talk to us a little bit about what you already have before you reveal more?
Yeah, yeah. So this is the piece that I've talked to you about at great length previously. This is the one that got it started, which was picked up with basically like a cash gift that my father gave me for my 30th
Hmm.
birthday. So it's the first mechanical piece that I got made by De facto, small producer who his I think he comes from it's pretty much like a one man show.
Hmm.
He's a designer that has the cases manufactured for him, and I think he pretty much has most stuff manufactured for him. I think he does some of the machining himself. But this is like a 42 PVD stainless 316 um, ETA 28242, I believe, self winding. I wore this pretty much every day for 5 years, and I think what's interesting about it is it's a fully the dial is entirely super luminova, which
Yeah,
is nice.
but
Um,
this is the uh, Incognito Eins or something, right? It's the single
y-
hanger watch.
yeah, exactly. So they call it Eins because it only has one hand. Incognito because there's no markings on it. and just compared to the new one, which I'll show you, it's I mean, this thing is like I wore this for like 5 years, and it's pretty big for my taste now, but it has some presence, and it's a lot of dial, right? So this is the 41, the 41, which this was for my 35th. So from 30 to 35, in my opinion, there was a pretty big jump there. And while I was waiting for this one, the Chronograph 2 came in. So I actually got that in between those two. I don't have that one now, but you could see images of that online. I'll probably show it in another one.
Should I drop your Instagram link as well in the chat? Is that okay?
I'd prefer to keep that separate for now.
Okay.
Maybe one day. Most of the people in the community who I've met, I've shared most of my information with, but I kept it that way. I kept it that way for a reason. I don't know if I'm going to move away from it yet, but let me give it a think.
Just so you know, the reason, unlike many of the watch influencers who do the talking hand stuff on YouTube and Instagram, St. Peter is actually a nice looking chap. I mean, he's not hiding his hideous face. Whenever these talking hands guys do face reveals, it's like, oh, I know why you have been hiding your face. St. Peter is not like that. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and I've had the privilege and pleasure of not only meeting and talking to a lot of the community members, who join other streams in the community channel and that kind of stuff, but I've been invited out to watch meetups and dinners with very generous members of the community. So I'm not shy. It's just when it's a public thing, I get a little weird about it. So
tell me about your Cartier.
Yeah, so this one, the Centre has always been is and will continue to be a grail of mine, but for my current status, it's kind of unobtainium. So I'll get there one day. But this was a nice way to kind of get into it, and I really enjoy this piece. So this is the medium Americaine in steel, three-hander, full deployant, which is very nice. Really robust. This size, like I basically have this on the last hole. So this size I think is intended for, a smaller person. I could pull it off, but I've always said that with this particular brand, it should wear a little bit on the smaller side because I think that's more the traditional. They did release a new Americaine two-hander with a new manufacturer movement, and it has a more slim case profile. So if you notice, the case back here is a little bulbous, which that is pretty much my only problem with this piece, because there's just not that much fat on this wrist. So it does hold it up off the wrist a little bit. I think most people wouldn't notice that, but it's the kind of thing that the more time I spend with this piece, the more I notice it. So, I'm considering
last year around this time, well, a little earlier, I guess, about 13 months ago, let's put it like that, when we did meet up in New York City, you were wearing this watch and I had the pleasure of trying it. Speaking of a smaller guy, I think it looked, I mean, if I may say so, it looked great on my wrist. It's a nice watch. I like, I actually, also being a huge fan of Tank Centre, at least since I have seen it on Steve McQueen's wrist, and especially since I've gotten to appreciate how many different ways it can also be, thanks to Ronnie Madwani's collection on Instagram. I've grown more and more to like it, and you're right. The Americaine is a great compromise. I mean, great watch all around, actually, more than a compromise. And what I really like it, the way, if you could show that deployant again, for me, Cartier is always, of course, a very distinctive shape, but even the fact that their pin buckles, tang buckles, deployant buckles are always so recognizable. it's copied, but it's very, very distinctive. You know, like even when the watch is on your wrist, and you are just showing the buckle, people can know that's a Cartier, and that's part of the experience, right? You know, it's not like a low key kind of piece. Ali Reza, you can jump on as well if you would like to join the conversation, join the fun. We haven't revealed the watch yet, so feel free. Ozzy is putting the kids to bed, so he's gonna jump on very soon.
You know, I mean, having a piece that's on a deployant, like on a leather strap, it's like, I really don't like the pin buckles. I mean, I dropped the Chrono because it was heavy and unbalanced, and I was taking it off, and I just wasn't paying close enough attention. And it was one of those things where, like, I pop the pin buckle, and next thing you know, the it's falling into a porcelain sink, you know, and it took a dent. Fortunately, it was on the lug in an area that was very discreet, but I sent it in for service, and they gave me a whole new piece.
I remember
So
that story.
yeah,
Yeah, I
so
do remember that story.
I got pretty lucky with that, but that happened to me 7 days after I got it. So, you know, I mean, that thing sold out in 7 minutes. I think I got mine in about a minute, 35 seconds, anywhere between like 35 seconds and a minute.
Dude, you
And
know,
and it
the thing is that something like that just recently happened to me. Remember the Daniel Roth? I get it in. I put it on the second time ever. This is, by the way, the same watch on my wrist. I put it like the second time ever, take it off and put it on my towel as I step into the shower. And I step out of the shower, pull the towel, the watch falls right on its face. So it had to get a service right away. So those kinds of things can sometimes happen. And I've also dropped my Reverso since. So it's but that didn't, thankfully, that doesn't need service, but it got a new facet basically on one of the lugs. That bathroom floor is becoming the bane of my existence.
so yeah, I mean, it really hurts, you know, and I could only imagine. I think it was Eric Koo posted a video of like a ceramic AP Tourbillon that was like had shattered links, and I was just like, oh my God, like I could only imagine, you know, dropping a piece like that or bashing it into a door or something. But you know, I think it goes to say that, you know, durability, one of the reasons why super fanboy for this brand is, you know, they can take a beating. You know, unfortunately, when you get all this high polish, it really starts to show the scratches. I know I have kind of a narrow depth of field thing going on here, but you can kind of see, you know, there's some on the bezel, unfortunately, you know, definitely
But you know,
on the clasp.
I was going to say though, that's a Datejust 41
Mhm.
oyster bracelet, smooth bezel. But I was gonna say, look, I have been a Rolex guy all along and still am in so many ways, even though I have branched out. But the thing about Rolex is not only that it can take a beating, but I think they actually start looking better as they take a beating. I look at it like you know, old Oxford cloth shirt, you know, that has started fraying at the cuffs and collar. It's yours now, right? You know, it has all the scars, all the dents, all the memories of the years. Whereas when you look at your Cartier or my Reverso, those are, you know, being also dressier watches in the most general sense of the category. I feel they don't actually take that sort of scar particularly well. I don't think they carry that kind of dent and nick and scratch as well. I think that they just looks just fine with a few scratches, even nicks. Certainly hairline scratches, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't care.
I've gotten pretty lucky with the case. What surprisingly has taken most hits, obviously the clasp, which I think most people who actually wear their Oyster and Jubilees, with the clasps can relate to that. But I was surprised that the bezel, and I think there's even some on here that just happened just from me like rubbing it like that, and they're just being either grit on my hand, grit on there that wasn't rinsed off. So you definitely need to. I think probably the best way to clean these things, if they're waterproof, is before you actually even touch the surface with a cloth, is like actually do a sudsy rinse to try to get any small particulate you might not see off. Obviously, wash your hands and that kind of stuff. And because of how shiny this thing is, I would always, especially when it was really crisp, I would always want to buff it. Like I wouldn't want to see any of the fingerprints or any of the grease. So, I would always buff it. And the more and I don't mean like aggressively, I just mean wipe it down like to get the fingerprints off. The more you do that, the more little scratches you're gonna put into it. Right. So it's like you gotta kind of just let it be, and keep it clean and that kind of stuff. But this piece to me, I was looking at, when I went into the store and I introduced myself to the brand, I told them I was interested in collecting this brand over, a long period of time because I just wasn't able to pick up multiple things at the time. I
Mhm.
listed, said Datejust, Explorer, Sub, right? Those were the three pieces. And this was December of 2020. Production had been down for a very long time. And, they didn't really entertain the other two quote unquote sports models, but they allowed me to spec this in the exact configuration I wanted. And this was the one that I had been thinking about. And what drew me to the Oyster and the like the smooth bezel was that to me it's evocative of the Explorer One and the Platinum Day Date, right? So
Right.
like when I see this, I'm like, that's what that reminds me of, and I think you could, on one hand, you could say this might be the most vanilla possible option, or maybe like a silver dial, not a rhodium dial, or they changed the name to slate. You could say that, but like in a lot of ways, it's also the sportiest. So by not being
Yes.
able to get like a professional model, but being able to get this, I've developed a whole new appreciation to these, more kind of heritage and like classic
I have to also
pieces.
say, and again, this is not in a bad way at all, because they just is one of those most predictable Rolex models, no matter what, right? If you look at the actual numbers, ladies' Datejusts and men's Datejusts usually sell the most. Um, but this is probably the most unDatejust configuration that you can get it in a certain way, right? It's not two-tone, it's not a fluted bezel. Even if it's stainless steel, it doesn't have the Jubilee bracelet, like you said. Even with the polished center links, it looks like a sportier watch. It looks like an everyday watch. And I think, I remember you mentioning that sometimes you think maybe the 41 is a little too big, but again, you have to look at it as part of your own trajectory, right? You were basically transitioning from that de facto eins incognito to this. So you were going from a much bigger watch, and the combination of that Luminova dial and the DLC coated case. I mean, like you said, it looks like an entire disc on your wrist. So I think you have done well. I mean, I do like this watch. It's not something that I would go after, but it's so distinctly different.
Well, what I love about it is like no one knows how to read the time on it, but I do. And there have been times that I try to set it really precisely.
Mm.
And in a group of people where like someone has a phone, someone will be like, what time is it? And I look at this for like, I'd say a good 20 seconds. And then I call out the time and I'll be within a couple minutes.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and that to me, I was like, oh,
Pretty
that's
good for a
that's kind of fun.
mechanical watch.
But the way that the indexes are set up, it's like it's in increments of 15 minutes. So you can when you're right on one of the small indices, that's 15. In between, it's 7.5, which is like an odd, that's like an odd measure of time also. But you figure it out, you get used to it. And this thing's, it's ETA, so it's it's very reliable. I mean, at one point in time, the case was compromised and there was moisture in there, and I sent it back to the guy, and he just rebuilt the thing. He put a whole new movement in there, and I think that service was like about $300 or so. So, although I did think it was lost in the mail, and it took like months for me to get it back. I thought I lost this thing, dude. I just found it yesterday when I moved.
What part of Germany is he based?
I think he's either based in Berlin or Pforzheim. Like, I think Pforzheim is the area that does some of the manufacturing from him. So I can't remember. I can't remember where I mailed this thing to. But all that information's on the website if anyone's interested. Their stuff has gotten more expensive. This was about $700 when I got it. So I think that a comparable piece now, I think, is in the four figures. But interesting if you like Bauhaus. If you like minimal, I would definitely recommend it. I mean, I like how austere the design is, and I am a big fan of kind of not all of the Bauhaus aesthetic, but I like the Max Bill stuff quite a bit as well. So, well, what do you think? You want to see the box?
It is based in Pforzheim, which is actually traditionally, it's like the jewelry capital of Germany, at least West Germany. And to this day, there's still a lot of manufacturing for cases and bracelets that is done around there, even for a lot of the Glashütte brands. As you know, Lange used to get these exquisite bracelets from Wellendorf, which is Pforzheim-based jewelry house. So Pforzheim is kind of what Glashütte is to the east. Pforzheim is to the west. So he has a good base. Well, guys, if you want to jump on the panel, feel more than free. If you want to take a few guesses, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you want to expedite the process, if you want to encourage St. Peter to open the box a little earlier, feel free to send in a super chat or two.
Anyone that's looking for a nice kind of speakeasy, fancy cocktail bar, this place is like one of the best ones in the city. Very good friend of mine works there. I went there for a celebration drink last night after I picked up the new piece, and there was an empty seat at the bar, which eventually got filled with a very attractive woman from Bangkok. And I don't know if it was that I was gratuitously showing off the new piece on my wrist that we started talking, but we had a very nice conversation. And check out Death and Company.
Very nice. Ozzy wants to take the minimalism even to the next level. I had an idea for a watch that would tell you which millennium it is. Well, I mean, I guess that would be a calendar and not a watch technically, but a great concept. Love it.
A very slow piece. Slow timekeeping. I mean, it's interesting. I think that conceptually, I think that type of stuff is fun to think about. Yeah, I like this thing. I'm thinking about getting a double pass strap for it. Like the Hermes ones.
Really?
I think that, I think that would actually be cool.
Yeah,
I just wonder if it would work with the deployant. Don't know.
I guess wearing a Cartier piece is not feminine enough that you have to do a double pass as well.
Wait until you see the new thing.
Ooh. Alireza says, Taco and a woman from Bangkok. Is this YouTube or TikTok? Well, Bangkok was basically Archie's playground, so it's entirely watch and nothing else. This is Archie luxury at his best.
Yeah, I got that. Well, I still got 60%. So we got some time. I could go, if you don't mind if I step away for a second, I could get the Chrono. I think I have it on a NATO now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that would be nice, because that's the fourth piece before your new, right? That's the four you had before you got in the new one.
Yes, that's right. So
Peruka, I think you chose the wrong emoji. It should be bang dash eggplant. I think that's the one you're looking for.
Yeah. This thing, I think this is from Wolf. Oh, no, wait, what does that say in there? I can't even see it. Oh yeah, Heritage by Wolf. Not the most convenient, because basically this is just like a tube with these spacers in it. But this is a gift. It does its purpose. But I probably would not buy this watch roll again or recommend it, unless for some reason you're really into having just like a solid tube with 3 different pieces on it. You can't just take one out from the center, which is kind of a drag. But it works. Oh yeah, sorry, before I put this on.
Reaper, I see you, Reaper. I see you.
Yeah, man, this thing is, the dial furniture, the dial design on this. Like, I remember when I saw the press photos, I just thought it looked like something a samurai would wear, and that just really attracted me to it. A little bit on the thick side. It does have domed sapphire, so that kind of adds to it. Obviously, with the two NATO strips, that doesn't help either. But the 38 for me, I think, is kind of like the sweet spot. 38, 37, but
in terms of
this thing looks great in direct sunlight. The copper tones that you see on the dial, they just pop out.
I think honestly,
really nice.
They have gone through a couple of different a few different iterations by now, but I still think this is the best configuration. I have a very similar watch in terms of proportions. My Breguet Type 20, the reference 3800, is 39 in diameter, and it's like I think it's almost 14 millimeters in thickness, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't, for a chronograph, for a sports watch like that, I actually like those proportions. I mean, your mileage may vary, but I think that's a great watch for exactly the genre.
Yeah, it's like, I think it works. Like, I think on this NATO, it works. Like, I keep it on this, even though it's not the hot season. I always put this on the hot season because I have a tendency to sweat. So, just to try to preserve the leather. I usually switch out to like a synthetic strap during the summer. But, I've kind of just left it on here. It's nice and secure. I think it kind of complements the aesthetic. I do wish these were polished. Wish I had the option to get all this stuff polished, because everything on here is high polish. I don't think there's anything brushed on it.
Get a NATO strap with polished metal. I mean, they exist. They're not too expensive.
Yeah, I think I probably will pick that up at some point. I can't remember how much this was. I think it was like, got this from Hodinkee.
Oh no!
But yeah, I know. I was like, I'll give it a shot, but I haven't bought too much aftermarket accessories, straps and that kind of stuff. I mean, that's something that I always thought about. Like, I thought about getting, like a Oris or Rubber Bee for this or something like that, or Everest. I was thinking like white or like neon orange. I thought might be cool with the slate, but I just never did it because like the bracelet is so good. It's just so nice that why would you want to change anything? But one of these days I'll probably pick one up.
Yeah, I mean, again, the hardware, a lot of the NATO selling websites. I know I think for some time it was such a huge fad that everyone would put everything on NATO. There has been a lot of backlash. But a sports watch on a NATO, it's meant to be, man. I think it looks great. Like you said, just get one with fully polished hardware that matches the polished aesthetic of the case. For me, I don't mind matching my Type 20 sometimes with the same NATO that I'm wearing right now. Let me show that. I'm wearing my sub right now. So, and I think it's a great contrast. And the NATO straps, I think, look better and better when they're worn in. Kind of a gunmetal gray situation. And mine is all brushed. And it fits great with the Submariner, but it also fits with the Type 20. But yeah, if you want to match it, just get one that is polished.
What reference is that sub?
5513.
5513, nice. Two liner at the bottom, right?
Yes, sir. That's as
Very
it should
nice.
be. As it should be.
That thing's great.
Yeah, it's always going to be my best and greatest watch. Doesn't matter what else comes in. Doesn't matter, how complicated it gets. Even if I get my Royal Oak before next November, this is still going to be my pride and joy. Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think some people give Hajime Asaoka a lot of flack for having this sort of diffusion line, but he has kept it very consistent. He has kept it very different than his own independent line. And I think the guy is a great designer. I mean, if you look at the movements, architecture of his Tsunami, even that is, I think, a great design. And I'm glad he has given it kind of this sort of free reign, that he has given this free reign to his imagination with Chrono Tokyo, I think is great for everybody involved. But I don't know. Sometimes I see a lot of flack and hate on those watches, and I never understand.
I mean, they're pricey. Well, these ones are. I think his stuff is very pricey, but it's what you get. The craft level is really, really high. When you get it like his actual handmade stuff. I mean, I think this piece probably could have been a little bit cheaper, but maybe not. I don't know. I don't know enough about what it costs to actually put one of these things together. I mean, I do know that their customer service was great. They basically gave me a full replacement piece, which was nice. But this is basically like Tudor, essentially like Tudor range in terms of cost, or at least it was when I paid import duties at the time. I know their prices have gone up a little bit, but and it didn't have a bracelet. It just came with a leather strap. So, I think when you start to get up there, having more hardware, I think is nice. But
wait a second though. Can you get a Black Bay chrono for what you would pay for a Chrono Tokyo chronograph? No way.
No, just this at the time, I think it was like 38, and then it ended up being about 41 or 42 with the import duties, something like that, all in.
Yeah.
So I don't honestly, I haven't looked that closely at the Tudor catalog recently, so I don't know what the prices are, but I think they have not chronos, but pieces that are in that range. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, what are their lower end? Like, what's a Ranger? How much does a Ranger go for?
I will have to see, but of course. But I mean, you have to compare apples to apples.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, self-winding, chrono, 2 register with a date. So there's a lot of functionality in there.
Yeah.
no lume, poor water resistance.
On the bracelet, it's 3,300, the Ranger, but the Black Bay Chrono, which is the comparable product to that, should be over 5K as long. On the bracelet, it's 5,550. Yeah, so that's where we stand, and that's before tax as well. And this is 3,500 now. The last version they released with that jade detail dial, which was an interesting touch.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think, again, I still think yours is the one to get. I would never pay what sometimes they're asking on the secondary market. That's for sure. But
yeah, but I saw some of these sell at auction. Like a lot of these have sold on Loop This, and I think one of the highest ones I saw was like 7, like when it was like peak market and like which is crazy. It seems crazy to me. But then I've seen some of these go as low as like, I don't know, like in the 2s or like the high teens, which would be a drag. But I think people are choosing to let it go in a format like that at the wrong time. For me, it's like I like the fact that this is limited. There's only, I think, about 500 or so, maybe a little bit more. Now when they release their limited editions, now they say in the hundreds. Like they usually don't put the language on the website is usually like in the hundreds. They don't put an actual number on it. So I don't know if it was kind of the same thing with this. I think they said 500 when it was released, but for me, I really like this thing. I think I'll probably hold on to it for a long time. However, if I had the option to trade it for a Grand Akane with the radial Arabics, I would do that probably in a heartbeat, because it's much slimmer and it still has like a beautiful dial that's handmade. I would need to get a replacement chrono, but maybe it'll be a Daytona.
Why not? That would be really great.
Yeah.
Piruka, by the way, I did just help a friend get a vintage gondola, as it happens. But I don't think St. Peter's new watch is a gondola. Is it?
No, unfortunately. It is new. But it's not a gondola. I haven't gotten into Patek yet. I'm probably going to be hopefully deep into Lange before that happens.
Yeah. Which reminds me, by the way, this is I have 2 more videos on the pipeline, like the one I did for Patek, which you have watched and commented on, if I'm not mistaken, right? With the 5235G making an appearance, which you like even better in the pink gold version. The one of the next ones that I'm gonna make is basically 3 options if you want to get into Lange und Söhne, and I look forward to seeing what you think and how you will comment on that as well.
Let me guess. Lange 1 1815 chrono, Saxonia date.
We don't make compromises. So if you choose chrono for Lange, you get the datograph.
It's got to be the datograph, right?
It's 1815, no way. But yes, I mean, look, Lange. I know their whole shtick depends on this fact that they show the same sort of attention to the entry level as they do to complicated, which is, for the most part, bogus, right? That there's no business model that could justify something like that. But one thing I can say is that they have a certain consistency, that they have, for the most part, preserved when it comes to watchmaking, even if their approach to their collectors base, to their customers has changed tremendously. That's not based on my experience. For me, who has not bought a single watch from them, and who has always told them, look, I mean, you would be popping my cherry if you actually managed to sell me a watch, because I've never bought a watch at retail. Even when I say that, they treat me well, and trust that they are not afraid of a little channel with less than 2,000 subscribers. So a lot of times the people in the boutique are nice people, but they have company-wide policies, I think, that enforce certain practices when they sell watches in demand, which they of course have every right to. But I think that kind of practice is fated to backfire on the brand when the general trends seem to be on a huge downturn, and when the hype around the brand will eventually fade away, right? For that, you always need your loyal collectors, because people who buy your hype watches, people who buy your hot watches will not necessarily come back when the hype dies away. So brands like A. Lange & Söhne, Vacheron Constantin have to play their cards really carefully, because they can't have the same kinds of policies that Rolex and Patek can get away with, because Rolex and Patek are Rolex and Patek, right? They have built that brand equity over decades, and you can't just try to copy their business practices, whatever they are. We don't need to get into detail here, and start trying to milk as much money as you can from anyone who comes through your doors, because you want them to come back, right? You can't start robbing them at service. You can't try to bundle your watches to sell. Give people what they want. If you can't, just say that, right? Because you're just alienating people who are actually into your brand. You are pouring a new drink, I hope. You haven't taken the bathroom, did you?
No, I didn't go in the bathroom.
Okay.
Got the wine. I'll show you the glass for confirmation.
Very nice. Unless you are pissing blood, of course, which
yes. And then also drinking it afterwards.
I mean, I've seen more adventurous. Let's put it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Piruka says only acceptable Lange is Handwerkskunst or higher. I can't.
That's a very high standard.
I can't agree with that. I think, I'm not a purist, so I'm not gonna tell you go back to solid case back era, first couple of series or something like that. But I completely understand there's a charm to the first generation. To me, a lot of people, when they turn the watch around and see those islands on the 3/4 plate, they turn away, right? Because that means it's the earlier generation. To me, when I see those, I know it's the first generation movements based on JLC gear trains. That's the legacy, that's the heritage. To me, that's as pure as it gets when it comes to Lange, right? Those are the ones to get. If you ask me, if I can get something from early 2000s, or even one of the first few series of Datejust, I think that's a great watch to get. Always a great watch to get. A Lange one in any size, in any configuration, I think it will always be a great watch to get. And they have God knows they try once every so often to offer different kinds of things, like the Saxonia Thin Gold Flux, which is an acquired taste. Um, of course, Odysseus catapulted the brand into a different kind of sphere, into mainstream, into the consciousness of mainstream collectors. I love the design for what it's worth, but it's not to everyone's fancy. It's not to everyone's taste. Um, and now is the time for Lange to do something different. And I know both you and I have a lot of expectation from this year, because it's the 30th year of their founding, so 30th anniversary for the brand, for Lange One, 25th anniversary for the Datograph. I'm really expecting them to have not one but two heavy hitters come Watches and Wonders, and maybe one for Watches and Wonders, one for later in the year. I still believe in that brand. I don't think they have. Yeah, I can't adopt Peruka's view. I think the watches are still quite good, especially if you get it on the secondary market. I think the way retail prices have trended when it comes to brands like Lange, when it comes to brands like Vacheron, even when it comes to brands like Jaeger-LeCoultre, retail prices, for the most part, unconscionable. Secondary markets, it looks even better now since the list prices have skyrocketed. So I will always continue to advocate for that.
Yep, yellow gold, Lange One, champagne dial. For me, that's the one. I don't. Maybe my taste might change. Because by the time I get there, it might be a different story. But
That's
currently, that's
Walter Lange's choice was always yellow gold, apparently.
uh,
So you are in
I
good
mean,
company there.
if I would go for honey if I could swing it, but I don't think I can swing it. So
Piruka asks, and you're free to divulge as much detail or as little as you would like. Never seen you around St. Peter. What's your story?
oh, yeah, it's a good question. Based in New York City, got into the hobby, and it started to take off. When I got this piece here. Sorry, I put some more aggressive lighting on. So this is the first mechanical watch. I talked in some detail about it before, so you can kind of go back and hear about that. But once I started getting into the mechanics, and just the design and learning about more brands, it snowballed and it became kind of an obsession. It makes sense because I come from an art and design background. My father works in manufacturing. He's a motorcycle guy, so I grew up around hot rodding culture and just mechanical culture in general. Being a kind of a Lego kid and liking how bits and pieces go together, and building things kind of got me into it. When I was studying art and design, I took some jewelry making classes. I never thought I would be into the hobby to the extent that I am right now, but I'm sure as like a lot of us realize, you just you get stuck. So I don't really see myself ever getting out of it. I don't think I ever want to have a massive collection. I think keeping it pared down to stuff that you can actually wear pretty regularly makes sense. But I'm a very sentimental person. I collect some other things as well. Like, I collect records, for example. Really, really love music. I like, when you get a physical object, especially something that's small that you can take with you. It develops an even more kind of sentimental thing. And, a lot of these pieces are, I get around, either for my birthday or like it has some symbolism. So like I always think of this as like a gift from my father. So even though he didn't know I was getting it for myself, he just gave me some cash and I got this. But I always think of it as a 30th birthday gift from him. You know, I think I kind of wish I was a little more focused earlier on, you know, because when I first really got into the hobby, it's before, you know, it's before the numbers and the prices started getting insane. So by the time I actually got myself into a professional situation where I could start getting into some of the nicer stuff that's available, it was already pandemic. You know what I mean? So I kind of dragged my feet a little bit, you know, in between getting this and this, you know, I thought, okay, do I want to get into like Nomos, for example, right? Like, do I want, which is like basically, you know, halfway or like a third of the way in between this and in between this. So I think like that also kind of would have made sense. But then I was like, no, I'm just going to wait until I could get this,
Hmm.
you know, and I did. And that's why it took so long, unfortunately. But, you know, and so I started, you know, I started the process with, you know, a local AD, and basically everything since December 2020 that I've gotten has been through them, with the exception of the Chrono, including the new thing, which I think I should show because I'm getting down to 32%, and I'm just a little concerned that maybe if I get like not to zero, but before that we kind of crash out. So
I
what do you
was
think?
I was hoping that, I mean, I think putting the kids to bed is taking a little bit of time, but I was hoping we could at least get Oz on board. Piruka asks, why Rolex? Why Rolex?
Oh my God. I mean, I'm a hyper fanboy. So, you know, I could give you all the answers that everybody else does, you know, but to me, I think even though the prices are crazy, I still think the value is exceptional. I mean, the quality, the quality is just undeniable. Like the feel of how this thing is made and the heft of it, the presence, especially the modern stuff. So, you know, like this is where, you know, YB and I, we differ a little bit because he's really a vintage guy. For me, it's like I see the brand as continually over the years just improving a little bit incrementally at the time. Like, yeah, the pieces have gotten bigger, they've gotten heavier, they've lost some of their charm, but I do really I admire people who strive for, you know, perfection, which of course is unattainable. But I think pushing the envelope and always trying to make something that's better, in my opinion, is an admirable thing. So you know, this brand has a lot of cachet with it, and when, you know, when I was a different person, I would have think like, oh, that's, you know, that's just for like a jerk or a businessman, or, you know, or something or something like that. And then next thing you know, I'm like, oh, I'm this guy who's like, oh no, this is my second favorite brand, you
Hi,
know.
Oz.
So
Beautiful piece there,
so
St. Peter.
thanks. Yeah, I really like it. I mean, it continues to grow on me, and you know, I'm glad. And you know, talking about the process of acquiring it, and I'll tell a little bit more about the story with the next piece I have to show. But you know, I'm glad that I wasn't able just to go to the no date directly, because I got to spend a lot of time with this and enjoy it. You know, so so what do you think?
I think it's about time.
Okay, good.
Let's
All right, so I'm going to show you
put it
this.
up
I'm going to
because
show you this box, and in full disclosure,
very
right? So
nice.
you might know what this is already. So I'll just let everybody else know that I sent this piece, I sent this piece to YB and said, well, what do you think? You know, and I'm kind of giving it away to him right now, but I'll show everybody else. But you know, he kind of advised against it for a number of reasons, which, you know, we could get in, we could not get into. And I thought about it and I was like, you know what, that's good advice. And there's a bunch of other reasons, which, you know, I'll talk about, that, you know, got me to change my mind. But I went to see the AD, hadn't seen them in a while, asked them about this, and they were like, oh yeah, if you want that, like, we might need to move on that pretty quickly. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to the new Soho boutique, you know, the new Cartier Soho boutique right now, just because I want to go check it out. But, you know, I'd like to continue doing business with you guys because I have the relationship, you know, and
Mhm.
I want to maintain it. So let me see if they have it there, because I want to take a look at it. They didn't have it there, and they also didn't even offer it to me. Right? They're like, yeah, that's just not available. Like we can't get it.
Oh wow!
And
So this is a new Cartier.
it's new and it's already discontinued.
But by the
So,
way,
Okay.
just
Wow.
to put this out there, I did advise against it, but remember, I'm a watch YouTuber, so the more money you spend, it comes back to me. The more people buy watches, you know, I'm frugal. I always advise against buying things in the first instance, unless it's a really good deal. And you know, a watch at retail is usually not a good deal.
No, this one especially isn't. I'll admit that, you know. And I think there's a lot of people who would be like, what the hell? Why'd you even get that thing? So you could see, I don't know if you can see that, it says Thailand there. So that was fitting for my friend who I met who I met at the bar last night. So you know, pretty
Mrs. Peter is still around, I think, right?
Yeah, she's still around. She just wasn't. I didn't get a number. Let's put it that way. And I went home by myself. So just for full transparency, so when I got this thing, I opened this box without pushing this button like an idiot, like it was one of the green boxes I was familiar with, and it totally broke. It totally broke.
St.
Oh
Peter,
man.
you said you're in manufacturing and you don't even know how to open a fucking box with a button.
I don't even know how to open a fucking box, right? So anyway, they were like,
Cartier
"Oh yeah, no
give you a
problem."
lot more stuff, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you got the full treatment there, and the box is fantastic. And they also give you a travel box too, don't they? Woo! Here we go.
Yeah. So so Pasha is 35 salmon dial, non-guilloche. I think this light, let me see if that better.
Yeah, now we can see the color a little better.
Yeah, so thermally blued hands, applied quarter markers, printed Arabics in I think it's like a brown, you know, like a really dark burgundy or kind of brown, and then there's some blue detailing around the. I mean, would this square count as a chemin de fer?
Let me see, where are we looking at?
Like, you know, the square on the inside of the dial where you kind of see the minute indices.
I can't see
like
anything on
sorry.
the of the dial, so it's a little bit too deep for me to see anything. Let me see if I can find this on the website or something, so we can.
So the I guess the resolution then is not that good, huh?
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So basically the way that this worked is after the boutique essentially said that's not available. I was like, oh, that's a bummer. Well, what about the 41? Because the 41 is still on the website, right? But this one's not on the website. Now the link that I sent you, if you pull up that link, that still works. But when you go to the website and you filter out steel Pashas for the 35, yeah, like so that link, was that the one that I sent you? No, I found it myself.
All right, sorry. So I guess when I tried going to the website just today, like I did this experiment, I was like, oh, like why is this not on there anymore? Anyway, the point is,
well, here is the thing, though. It's one of those pieces that say contact an ambassador, so it's not like you can actually buy it on the website. So chances are you can call in and try to get it, and they will give us the same treatment they gave you at the new Soho boutique.
Yeah, so they and the person who I was dealing with, they weren't really that much of an expert, you know, for timepieces, that is. They knew about the stuff they had in stock, but like they didn't know about some of the new releases from Watches and Wonders from this year. So they were kind of more just like, I think they were just kind of new to the brand. Sorry, just go over some of this stuff before we get into the details. You know, so there's like these two little tabs here. There's like like a small indentation here for where the hardware is. That's an extra link which has a quick change system in it that I think is great. Here's the new deployant, so it comes with the strap and a deployant and the standard color.
Did you get with it?
Yeah, they don't give you the option. It just comes with this kind of brown color, which like I'm not really too thrilled about, but it's decent quality.
I think that's a nice compliment to the Salmon dial, to be honest.
Says made in Portugal. Which is fine. Like I have a lot of high quality stuff that's made in Portugal. I just think it's funny that it's like, it's Cartier.
Yeah, that's a little strange for Cartier, that's for sure.
Yeah, so and then you got the card, all the la dated, a little booklet. So this is the the warranty program, which is great. So they extend it to 8 years. I think the standard is like 2, but you just once you register with them, it extends the warranty to 8 years. So they're really good with warranty, like some of the other brands are not. And their setup is great because when you register it online, you're put in their system. So you create a profile and they have a catalog of your whole collection in there. And they knew about me. They even knew about me when I called in based on my phone number. They're like, "Oh, we know what you have," because I had registered.
I just realized now that you mentioned that warranty stuff, it is fantastic. I just realized I think the Cartier tank I bought my mum 2 years ago, I didn't do that. Like I think I remember at the time I did try to do it. It didn't work. And I'm like, I'll get around to that. So have I missed the boat? Do you think?
I don't know. I would still try. I mean, they want to provide high quality service. The service there, except for the fact that they didn't offer this to me, was great. They made me a cappuccino. They're like, "Oh, what else are you interested in? Let's make a profile for you." They take all these notes. So this has a quick change bracelet on it. And I think this is the tool that they give you to do that, which I think is crazy because this looks like steel, although it could be chrome plated brass. But either way, the idea of like pressing that with metal, I just think is kind of nuts. So this is a little, this is a little tool.
They should have just given something in silicone.
Yeah, no, it's nuts, man. I know. I got these things though. So I got my patriotic American flag picks.
Very nice.
So, and this is a sealed package. I have not.
By the way, sometimes we get too arcane on this channel and assume a lot of things. Guys, Pasha, and I realize that not everyone knows this. It is actually a Gérard design. His brief from Cartier was basically design us a waterproof watch inspired loosely on a watch that Cartier had designed for the Pasha, or rather a Pasha from Marrakesh historically. That was his brief, but he designed something from scratch because the archival information was not available. He didn't know what the previous design was. And when you look at the Pasha case, I think you can see a lot of signature details of a Janta design, the play of geometric shapes between the perfectly round case and that center of the dial, which is always a square, to the extent that it is sometimes even like a stone inlay on some luxurious models. The lugs are an interpretation of the original Vendôme style T-shaped lugs that Louis Cartier designed himself. And the original design also includes, and this is a service that Cartier still provides, by the way, at an extra charge, at least for the models like this, where it's not default. It includes a grill, or grid rather in English, that sits as a guard on top of the crystal. So it kind of gives the watch this sort of steampunk diving helmet look, which is only emphasized by that canteen style crown guard. Can you demonstrate that perhaps?
Yeah, so it's got a
Crown
tiny,
guard?
tiny crown. Yeah, it's got a tiny crown on it. So it's not a screw down crown. Basically, what it is it's a cap. It's a screw down cap that covers, and it's like on a chain link basically. So
Yeah,
like, there's a chain link there. You unscrew this, and then you have this really minuscule crown.
yeah.
Really tiny, quite hard to grip actually.
So
But I don't.
it's like an old school drinking bottle, right? That's why it's
Yeah.
called canteen style. Yeah.
Mhm. I've been this is one of my favorite brands because of how many interesting shapes they have. But this was never one that I was like highly attracted to. It took really thinking about it, for a while, and seeing this thing, having the experience where it was like, okay, like it seems like, and this is what they call, and the essay, my essay confirmed that they refer to this. There's like this internal thing they call, like, it's like a one shot, right? So this is a one shot model. So basically, they take orders for it for an entire year and then they stop. And apparently, they can take more orders than they can deliver sometimes. So in this case, they said you could put in a deposit. We can't guarantee delivery, but it only took 2 weeks. And the guy called me and he was like, "Yeah, we got it." So it was.
I have heard of this one shot thing before, but by an SA, and it's very, very unclear which models are this one shot thing. Very, very unclear. Like in the case of the model that this person talked about, I can see it's still in the catalog. So they were telling a fib. It's sort of like a FOMO inducing sort of mechanism, but they can be forgiven for telling you for, I guess, a watch that actually is this one shot thing. But it's hard just looking at Cartier's website, like whether or not a particular release is a one shot. And
So
I didn't enjoy being told that,
yeah,
please FOMO
told
this.
me he told me this one. He told me this one. This one was, and then he told me that they're like who they order it from through the company had confirmed that. So listen, whatever. To be honest with you, I don't really care. Like, I really like the salmon color, and just I love the shape. I was a little worried because it is 35. I was like, man, that's like seems really small compared to like the 41 and the 42s that I've worn. But like I said before previously, when we were talking about the tank, I think stuff from this brand should wear a little bit on the smaller side, and the nature of the kind of lug profile does lend to this piece wearing larger, right? So I think my wrist is like 17 centimeters, like about 6 3/4 or so. So it's pushing it. Like, I probably wouldn't go too much smaller than this, but I think this actually wears on my wrist like a little bit larger than the Explorer 36, which I also tried when I was there. So to me, I just think it's really cool, man. Like, they brought it in. There was no obligation for me to take it. I could have gotten the refund on the deposit, but like, I tried it on and I was just like, man, this is really cool. And I think if they stopped taking orders for them, like if they stopped taking orders for them this month, like I just haven't. One of the reasons why I was really attracted to this specific reference is someone who I follow on Instagram was posting a lot of photos of it, and they're like they're a digital creator, right? So they're an actual professional, right? So I'm like, man, they're making that thing look really good. And I kept seeing the images, and I was like, that's really cool. And they were posting stuff about it, and they're like, yeah, this thing, like, it's a one shot. That means they only make it for 1 year. And I was like, what? I was like, what? Like I was kind of attracted to it for that, but I was more attracted to it just by seeing the images come up over and over and over again. I was like, man, that thing, it just looks great. So it doesn't have, I couldn't tell from the pictures previously if there was texture on the dial, and I couldn't remember when I was there, like if it was going to have because the normal 35 that just has the white kind of like opaline like dial, it is guilloche, and I don't know what the process is, but it's textured. So I don't know if it's like a traditional like Rose engine or not, but it reads a lot differently than this. And you know, my lighting here is really crappy because I just have two lamps. I don't know if you guys could see the blue and the hands that kind of pops, but
Yeah, for sure. By the
it
way, the reason I recommended against this is because you can find neo-vintage examples of this design with a Salmon dial, with lozenge-shaped hands, heat blued, and with luminous inlays, um, with what I think is a stamped guilloche dial, Salmon with kind of like a sunray pattern. Pretty much the same configuration, certainly the same size. And these things appear on the Real, which is fashion consignment, somehow appropriate for a Cartier watch. For 2,000, 2,500, great deal. I think it's a great watch. If you have admired Jarajanta and his designs for a while, and if you see what I see in this, in the sense that, you know, it's the same play of geometrical shapes, it's the same nautical inspiration. I think it's a great watch, whether you get the contemporary one or a neo-vintage example. For what it's worth, I really like how these things look on the leather strap because of how it integrates into the T-bar shaped lugs, the Vendome lug. I think that's a very nice aesthetic. But that was my main. That was the thing on my mind when I was saying, like, you know, look, I mean, they are trying to, you know, reel you in with this whole, you know, it's once in a lifetime opportunity kind of thing. You know, on the secondary market, there are dime a dozen. But of course, this is a slightly different design. So, you know, I love it. I love it. I love the way.
I really like it, man. Honestly, it's just like for me, it's just one of those things where like I tried it on and I just knew, you know, it was like, and it just felt really good, you know, like that night. Sorry, the battery died, but hopefully, I mean, was it? I know I have like I had kind of like a focusing issue, but were you guys able to see like decent resolution on?
It was perfect. I mean, look, I like the usual good old webcam kind of setup, but you know.
Well, I listen. I just started putting this kit together for my rig here, and it will get better. I promise. But you know, one of the things I realized too is like I have, you know, I'm a you know, I am like a novice amateur photographer. And I used to, at one point in time, I thought like, oh, I'm going to go to school for photography, you know, and then I started dating. I had a long-term relationship with someone who was a very good photographer. And they were like, you know, honey, you're good at what you do. Just keep doing what you do. And she was, you know, she was right, you know, because what I did was something that she couldn't do. And you know, I'm pretty good at what I do. But I have all this
Well,
gear. I have all this gear that I've accumulated over the years, and I have all these nice pieces, you know, that are just they're collecting scratches. And most of the stuff on my IG is like with my iPhone. So
I
now I'm
wanna
like,
I wanna bring Swiss into the discussion, but I want to also say, look, I mean, it's like writing poetry. You know that you don't have to be the next Rimbaud to write poetry. You know, you can write it to process your emotions. You can write it as an avenue of self-expression of any sort. You know, you don't have to be a published writer to keep a journal. Photography is the same. You don't have to compare yourself to someone who does this professionally. Just just do it.
well, no, right. Well, I mean, I hope that you guys can appreciate that I want to elevate the documentation of this process, and it's to be able to share this stuff, with other people, but it's also, it's also to have like a more sophisticated looking presentation of how I interact with the hobby.
What is
Ooh,
this?
what's this rig?
What drug are you taking? What kind of syringe is that, Ozzy?
It's the drug that we're all on, man. We got watch stuff going on. That's what's happening. We got some watch stuff going on here. Well, you keep talking. I'm still just trying to set up.
Swiss, what's on your mind? What do you think of the new piece? What do you think of the Pasha in general? Swiss? Swiss? Swiss is gone. Swiss has left the building. Swiss?
Maybe while we're waiting.
Hello.
Oh,
hello.
Hey, how are you doing, man?
Hey, good to see you. Nice to meet you, Saint-Pierre. Is that your name, Saint-Pierre?
Saint-Pierre.
Yeah, Saint-Pierre.
Oui.
Good, and good to see you, Aussie. Good to see you.
Good day. It's been a while.
Yeah, what an interesting watch you just got. I was at just to explain you my position. I was at Watches and Wonders. It was this year, last year, and they presented that watch. And I remember I told myself, "Who the hell is gonna buy this?"
Well, there you go. You figured.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. There you go. So you just solved a mystery.
You know what I love about that sentiment is like there are so many people, definitely in the New York and like YouTube space that are, they're just they chase a lot of hype, and I like a lot of the hype stuff too. Like I realize, I should say that like I haven't lost sight of the no date sub, right? And the nice thing now about doing the amount of business that I've done with the group that I've been working with is, I said, hey, my vision is clear. This is the next piece for me when I was leaving. And they basically like, when do you want it? And I was like, I was like, oh, well, I need some time. Like I need to spend some time with this piece, that, and also I need funds, right? Like I need to work my way back up to getting there, but essentially I said like, oh yeah, well, what do you think about like summertime? And as like, is it like, would I be in jeopardy of not getting it if I wanted it in summer? They're like, no problem. Like we'll get it for you in summer, so I know now, people aren't really buying a lot of stuff, so that doesn't really mean that much, but it is nice to have them just be like, hey, we appreciate your business. What do you want us to help you with? And, that one for me, I've just wanted for a very long time. And then the next thing I ask for after that is going to be a black Daytona, because why not? Because if I need to wait 3 or 4 years for it, I need to start that process.
Do they sell Rolex SAD?
Yes, they do. They're one of the big ones. So, they have everything except the one that I go to, unfortunately, doesn't have Lange. But what YB was saying before was like, why even bother? Get it pre-owned, right? Like why get a Lange one for 50 when you could get it for 25?
Yeah, and now Lange is going boutique only, so they are gonna milk you.
What do you mean by boutique only? Because I know in Las Vegas they just opened up a Lange quote unquote boutique, but it's still owned by a multi-brand.
So this is one of the puzzling questions sometimes. Boutique only model means that an AP has done the same thing basically. An AP is kind of the industry example, the gold standard that everyone follows. They do have some locations and some boutiques in the style of what Patek calls a salon, where it's owned by the corporate, basically, the HQ, connected to the HQ. Otherwise, it's still a single brand boutique where they have almost full control, but it's technically run by one of their long established partners, like the way West Time runs the Beverly Hills AP boutique, right? Kind of like that. So it happens. It still fits into the boutique only model where they remain in full control, even if the brand that the authorized dealer that runs it has other boutiques and other brands. Lange still has the lion's share of say over that boutique.
I
etc.
question that a little bit.
Question?
Because I know the director of this chain of boutiques at the Venetian,
Yeah.
and I don't know. Well, what I mean is, like, to me, my impression is it's still, like, it looks very boutique-like, but it's still a multi-brand. Like, your relationship is still going to span across multiple brands when you pick up that Lange from that quote-unquote boutique.
Well, let me.
I mean, yes, but does this boutique at the Venetian has access to all the watches that they want, or only what they are allowed to sell? That's another thing.
I would say it's closer to the allowed to sell, but that's true of all of the brands under that. Sorry, what's the parent company name? Starts with a B, right? Escapes my, like, Cartier, Lange.
Oh no, that's Richemont.
Richemont, yeah.
Yeah.
So Richemont they're not in charge of Lange?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Okay,
but
so there's Richemont brands that
I think Richemont has influence over Lange, but I don't think they have full control. Like, I think Lange still has some.
Technically, they have full control.
Do?
They do.
No, St. Peter, you basically believed exactly what Wilhelm Schmidt said in that stupid interview. The guy.
Oh, the one with Ben.
He talks a lot, but he doesn't say anything. I mean, he's a figurehead. He's not. Of course, he doesn't have control over the brand. Of course,
but do you think Richemont said you must make an Odysseus chronograph?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's a bad execution. It's not a good
the Odysseus to begin with was a Richemont idea.
I love that.
100%.
I love that thing. I love that. I love
you can love it, but, like, it has for a Lange chronograph with a centrally deployed minute hand. How does that minute not tick? Like, how is it not a jump minute? Explain this to me.
Hey, they crammed a lot of mechanics in there. I'm playing devil's advocate. I agree with you. I do agree.
And also the big price increases and basically every decision that seems greedy, it is a Richemont decision, 100%.
Yeah,
this goes for
you're not going to blame the brands at all.
This goes for JLC. This goes for all the brands under the
IWC engineers pricing.
Yeah.
It's a shame. I mean, it's a shame that Cartier and Lange are not fully independent. Because those are two of my favorites.
I feel it more in Cartier. Yeah.
I mean, I have three. Like, I have three, but I will say this about Cartier is, like, the fact that you can do custom order with them, in my opinion, I think is great. Now, of course, to qualify for custom order, I don't know if that'll ever work for me. I don't know if I'll ever be able to afford one, but I think it's very interesting that they do that.
And aren't they blurring the lines on the Cartier movements? Like,
they are. So, like, the movement that's in that Pasha, it says manufacturer caliber, and it has their MC. I forget what the exact number
MC
is.
numbers,
yeah, but it basically is a ETA. It's an ETA base that was improved from my understanding.
But in the defense of that particular model, I have to say, Cartier watches over time were always outsourced movements. When it was hand wound and and ultra thin, it was usually European Watch Co., which is just Jaeger-LeCoultre by another name. They have used some Piaget movements in the past. Of course, the Collection Privée, Cartier Paris stuff, the CP stuff, had all sorts of different movements, which included that, Jean, Denis Flageolet collaboration for the single button chronograph, so on and so forth. But
I'm not a stickler.
The Cartier Pasha has always had an ETA based movement, so it's not.
I'm not a stickler for like in-house versus not, but Cartier is like sort of rubbing me the wrong way in the last year, because the price increases have been so dramatic, and I've learned more about their movements not being as in-house as some might desire. I don't necessarily desire, I don't care that much, but it sort of sounds like if they've slightly modified an ETA movement, it sounds like the worst of both worlds. Like, I'm paying $8,000 for a Santos now, and it's not that reliable, and it has to be repaired by Cartier. I don't know.
I agree about the cost, and I'll admit that, like, for me, it's not something that I'm happy about. But with this particular piece, it really more is about the design, and it's more about my appreciation for the history of the brand. Listen, I didn't have the opportunity to show you guys how the quick change bracelet system works, but sorry, you saw me pull the bracelet off the case. I think you saw that part and put it back on. That's great. Having that functionality is great. It's 100 meters. I like the fact that it's an integrated bracelet sports watch that was designed by Gerald Genta. The pink dial is really nice. The one thing I will say, and my biggest gripe with this, aside from the cost, which I do think is problematic, is there's areas of this bracelet that are not smooth, right? And so this goes back to the original question as to, like, why do you like Rolex so much? And it's because you don't get that on their bracelets. Right now, I'm
surprised. I bought the Cartier Tank for my mum, and that's the cheaper end of the scale, the quartz-powered one. The bracelet's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's either this particular style bracelet or it's a new thing, but it is there. So, and I'm a stickler about this because I'm a metal worker, and I have close to 10 years of experience of hand finishing stainless steel. Right. So it's like, I know what happens when you polish metal and you sand it. And when you sand two edges, sand two perpendicular faces, you will wind up with what they call a burr.
You get a burr, yeah.
I wouldn't say that these are burrs that I'm observing, but in between the links, like not in the area. Like, so when the bracelet's flat and you run your finger along the length of the bracelet, you don't notice it. But when you fold the two links in the area that normally isn't exposed, like you could feel like there, it's like, it's fucking sharp, and I was like, what the fuck, and it's irritating to me because when the stickers were on it, before I said I'll take it, it was less noticeable.
You know what? That is exactly another evidence of Richemont cutting corners.
It is.
You remind me, really, of EA games and dice. Like in the 2000s era, everyone would blame EA for everything bad about a game, and everything good about the game was the studio. And it would just go like, this is EA, this is EA, this is EA, and then the good things are, this is dice, this is dice, this is dice. But lo and behold, eventually you understand that actually, no, both were bad. What the hell?
So,
look.
Are you saying Richemont should have stuck with tobacco and never gotten into luxury? Is that what you're implying?
Maybe no. I mean, they saved many brands. It is what it is, and we have to live with it. But I have a friend who used to work at JLC. Now he is working at Audemars Piguet, and he used to work at JLC for the longest time. And at some point he quit because Richemont was replacing all his co-workers, and it went to a point. No, with other people, but it went to a point where, JLC, they were known for, making beautiful watches and having the best finishing and everything. It went to a point where the head of movement finishing, right? The guy supervising the movement finishing would say, why would we finish the underneath of the parts? People don't look at it, so we're not going to finish it. And this is cutting corners. And this is Richemont putting this moron supervising everyone else, and then boom, the whole company is cutting corners.
Yeah.
And at this point, he was like, "Well, I'm gonna maintain your standards. I'm gonna quit this shithole company, and I'm gonna work with genuine guys." And he went to Audemars Piguet, who is still family owned.
Look, I'll say this, that if you look, Guilloche dials by Jaeger-LeCoultre, and again, beyond Swatch Group, the JLC manufacturer in Le Sentier probably has the largest amount of Rose lathe machines, Rose engines. In the early 2000s, they were just better. They were still cutting corners in a way, in the sense, like, it wasn't an independent watchmaker. They were still sandblasting at the end of the process to kind of smooth out the imperfections. But if you look at the Guilloche dials nowadays that JLC produces, it's like night and day. I'm not sure if they have switched to CNC perhaps, rather than hand run, hand operated, but it's possible. And I see, again, I don't want to paint entire brands with the same brush, but Swiss, last time you were on here, we were looking at different examples of Florentine dials, the Tuscan dials from AP, right? From different periods. Mm-hmm. And it really looked like, even with the relatively low quality photographs that we have here, there was a certain three-dimensionality to examples from the 90s that simply was not there with the newer stuff. So it's obvious that at corporate levels, the name of the game is no longer that sort of artisanal, craft-oriented watchmaking. You have to go to independent brands for that at this point, I think, for the most part.
But it's even worse than this, because not only the direction of the company changed, now it's not about making beautiful watches anymore. It's about making money via beautiful watches, and then they get greedy. But all the people working there who had passion and who actually gave a shit, they left the company. They go elsewhere because they don't want to be a part of that bullshit. And now you have a whole company that has been replaced by people who, they are yes men instead of passionate craftsmen. And there you go.
It's unfortunate to hear about that. But I think, your friend, good for them. They made the right move.
Well, now he is head of product development at Audemars Piguet, so he's in a very good situation.
It doesn't get much better than that, frankly. That's, as someone who's in design and manufacturing, that to me is, it's just a dream. Like, that would be a dream job for me. So I think your friend sounds like a very talented person.
Let me do an unboxing and start showing you tools, and we can talk over the top of the tools too.
So, what is that?
That's a pellet. That's a pellet case, right?
Yeah, just my combo, my hot combo for the next few weeks.
Nice.
Damn! I was waiting for the drill machine and the lathe.
Yeah,
Oh my
I
God.
need a drill press for sure. So yeah, 58, the FXD black, the Hulk, and wearing tonight the Batgirl.
Hmm.
Nice.
I see a
Tonight,
certain commonality between these watches.
yeah, no, they have different functions. Like this one has a date.
Just the commonality.
This one has a strap. This one's an homage.
they're
This one,
also
I don't know what
yeah.
this one's for. I'm told
Is
it's
the
different.
FXD in titanium?
Yeah. This is the FXD in black. It's technically not my newest watch, actually.
So
But
STP,
yeah,
have you ever worked with working with titanium?
Yes, I have. It's a very interesting metal to grind because the sparks that come off it are bright white. So if you're used to grinding steel,
Nice.
and then usually in movies, when you see people welding and grinding, it's a warm, almost like an orange color spark.
Yeah.
But when you grind titanium, it's a bright white color, and that is a very fascinating experience as a metal worker because you take it over to the grinder and you just touch the
Yeah.
metal on there for a second. You're like, whoa, what the hell is going on here? And back in the day, before they had more sophisticated ways to identify metals, they used to call it the spark test. And so, if you had two different chunks of metal and you didn't know which one was which, you would physically grind it and observe the color and the nature of the spark that would come off the metal to
Yeah.
make your assessment on, oh, is it this hardness? Is it steel? Is it stainless?
And it does make sense because titanium oxide is white.
Sure. And iron oxide is red.
So I wanted to show you this tool. There's a YouTuber, Takante, I think, who made me aware of this premium spring bar tool made by this one place in Hong Kong, I think. And it, unlike regular tweezers, this costs more money, so that makes it much better.
That thing's nice. That thing's nice.
So I think the main
how much
idea
was
is
that, Aussie?
200 plus shipping.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, but like I'm not a watchmaker. I'm not that good with my hands. I figured I need as much help as I can get. So it doesn't make sense to get like a worse tool than what a professional would use. But yeah, I think the main idea is that it keeps the when you go to clamp down, you're not doing a tweezer action. It's just moving parallel.
Mhm.
And then you can also use this to sort of set how far it will spring out, and that way it's like not just trying to jump out
Wow.
of your
Okay.
hands
Now this is some very elaborate tool.
No, that's a beautiful tool. It's very well designed. It's obvious to me as as someone that uses a lot of tools that like a lot of stuff was taken into consideration. And what's interesting about design and tool making in general is that oftentimes designs like this come out of someone using a tool over and over and over again and being frustrated with how it functions, and they say, I'm going to invent one that's better. And so this to me is incredible. I love this.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah. And so these are obviously tweezers, but these are actually custom to this tool. So about 3 weeks ago when I took this off, I left this on the desk, and then my 1-year-old daughter came along and then yanked this off the desk onto the ground. And so it ended up breaking one of those tweezers, and the replacement set was $50 plus shipping.
Because it's hardened.
Like, this is
it's hardened steel, right? That's why it's shattered, because it's like a hardened steel alloy. Or is it? Is that what the inserts are? Or are they're not like carbide, right?
I would be inclined to say they're probably softer than anything, because we're not using them to like machine something. We're just trying to push some springs together. But yeah, they're very slender, and I'm like, I knew one day I would have to replace it, but I thought it would just come from like wear and tear, where these are no longer crescents anymore, that they get flattened out or something. I kept looking for that. No, just full on, just yank it onto the ground, get it get it full on broken.
But the one that broke it snapped off. Like it was like the metal just sheared.
Yeah, just snapped off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
like it probably hit the ground, so you know, if I found the tip was probably damaged too, even if it didn't snap.
That's interesting, because that to me it would suggest that it's like a hardened metal, you know, that's brittle and not soft. Like it didn't bend over. Like if that was a piece of copper or brass, it would have bent.
Right.
You know, before
And
it snapped off.
it's a custom piece. Like these are probably handmade, but I mean, yeah, with a machining tool or whatever. But these are probably not. These are not mass produced. $50 a pop. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But I've only had good experiences with it, and I'm already committed, right? It's like it was $200. Like I'm not going to fix it.
That thing is really cool.
Yeah, I don't know. In some ways the tweezer is better because you get a lot of height over the bracelet with the tweezer. Like if this, you sort of like have to sort of make sure the bracelet is like here, and then you sort of like pop it. Or with a tweezer, you've got a lot of height. You're mostly coming straight down, and so angling away from the bracelet's potentially easier. But look, I've had a good time with this. The only thing I don't understand is I think you're meant to be able to put like the spring bars here. These are made out of, it looks like there's a very hard resin material. I forgot what it's called.
The Delrin, like acetal.
Delrin, yeah, something like that. This is a very hard thing here. I think this is meant to be a way to put spring bars back onto a watch, but I really have no idea how I would achieve that. This is a tool too, suffice to say. I just don't know how to use it. Whatever this is, I don't know what it is. I don't know how to use it.
There's no diagrams in the paperwork that came with that.
No, it's all in Chinese. I don't know. I'll look for it. I don't think there's anything in here. No, I don't think so. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, I got this tape. Is this is this useful? I hear they use this sometimes to try and help prevent. Like this is like a kind of watchmaker's masking tape. I've never used it before, but you know, I think I've got some scratches on the bottom of this already. Not much. Like, is my handiwork already showing here? Probably more on my
yeah. I mean,
Pelagos.
I don't know, man. It's, you know, maybe it's because I come from the, you know, vintage world. To me, like scratches on the back of the lugs and even on the back of the case, it comes with the territory. It's what it is, you know.
I never understood people like being annoyed, like placing a watch like this, like over the bracelet, you know, and they're like, "Oh, you're scratching it." Yeah, the underside. It's like the people get shitty about that, like the case back being scratched. I'm like, seriously? I thought I was anal, but you're worried about the case back being scratched? That's.
By the way,
do you guys care about the case back? I don't know.
I don't. I wanna also read something very quickly because of what Piruka said earlier. You know, he was saying that with the emergence or with the entry of luxury groups into the market beyond the Swatch Group, things have changed quite a bit. And I read recently, just because I was doing some research, this interview that Peter Spiekmarin, the naked watchmaker, did with Max Busa. And this is what he says about his time at JLC. So he's asked, what made you choose to become a creator? Who have you worked for in the past? And what made you decide to go alone? The realization around 35 that the little kid who dreamt of being a creator had sold out and become a marketer. For 7 years at JLC and 7 years at Harry Winston, I always created products by focusing on what the market wanted, what would sell, instead of what I would have liked to create. Here's the other part. What's the worst job you have had to do? He says, as a youngster, to earn a living, I was a cinema usher during weekday evenings and a hi-fi salesman on Saturdays, and would give math private tuition during lunch breaks. I actually enjoyed every one of those jobs. At 24, my first real job was product manager at Jaeger-LeCoultre, and it turned out to be real epiphany. I had found my path, a surrogate family, and a meaning to my work. And then he says, what's your biggest influence, right? He says, professionally, Günther Blümlein and Henri-Jean Belmont nurtured me during my early years at JLC. My love of great products comes from them. My quest for value for money and integrity also. I was so lucky to have started in watchmaking in an era of pre-publicly owned groups where we never ever discussed how to make more money, just how to first save the company and then how to build it. And the only way we knew was to create fantastic products. So there's a lesson in there, right? You know, if you, first and foremost, these brands, to be saved in the first place by luxury groups, they had to become profitable in some way. And it's that generation of people in the 90s, for the most part, who have actually salvaged these brands, added some value to them, and they did that by focusing first and foremost on the timepieces themselves and not everything else that surrounded it. Now, we do live in a different era, and like Swiss said, we have to kind of accept it in its own way. But I think there's a lesson there still, at least a lesson that a lot of independent makers, I think, are heading, even though there is also a lot of, you know, a lot of charlatans who go that path as well, I have to say. Not every one of them is so honest, so pure, and so driven by his own vision like Max Büsse is. And I'm saying this as someone who doesn't necessarily like his watches, right? You know, I know Saint Peter adores them, but I love Max Büsse, the man, much more than I like his watches, to be honest.
Just for the record, I'm very particular about the MB&F stuff. I like the LM series, you know, the round case, the cases he said he would never make when he started MB&F. You know, he's like, we're never going to make a round watch. Well, when he started making the round ones, that's when that's when things started going into the stratosphere. But you know, honestly, I think I really appreciate Max's personality. I think you know, in that upper echelon, you know, of the people that made the Revolution success list. You know, I think he's probably my favorite, or one of my favorites. And but the work that Stephen McDonald does, to me, I think is just I mean, I just think he's a genius, you know, and that's how Max talks about him as well. And I think, you know, a pairing of the minds, the whole like MB&F concept of, you know, it's Max and friends, like, you know, this collaboration working to get together. I think some of that is marketing for the brand, but I do think there is inherent value in collaboration, especially when you have, you know, a team of virtuosos working together.
Look, we were talking about Cartier just a minute ago, and Oz was saying this. I share his opinion. You know, I'm not wedded to the idea of having everything in-house, having everything vertically integrated as a manufacturer. It certainly has its virtues, but it's not the kind of investment of time and resources that every single brand can afford. What I do value over everything else, though, is transparency, right? Like you said, St. Peter, MB&F is partly a marketing angle, perhaps, right? Max Büsse and friends. But he does actually translate that into practice in a very honest and transparent way. So when Stephen McDonald designs a movement for him, that movement bears McDonald's signature, right? So the friend is not some invisible collaborator whose name is glossed over and only known by the insiders. And at the end of the day, everything is presented as conceived, designed, and made in-house, right? MBNF doesn't do that. Chapek doesn't do that. Again, it's a brand that, I don't like every single design and watch made by them, but I value the passion that their CEO carries and the transparency they have about every single part of the watch in terms of identifying the manufacturer, where it comes from. We know there's nothing hidden. It's not like Breitling, it's not like Cartier, it's not like IWC that basically do a few cosmetic touches on movements sourced from elsewhere with architectures borrowed from elsewhere, who then present it as if it were their own manufacturer made. I think that's what's wrong with the presentation, not necessarily the fact that some of these parts, some of these components are sourced from elsewhere, because it is an ecosystem, right? That's what Swiss watchmaking was for centuries, you might say, right? But certainly in its golden era, Swiss can tell us a little bit about the établissage system. That's what defined Swiss watchmaking. It doesn't have to, you don't have to reinvent the wheel at each turn.
I'll just take a quick beat. So this is the Horifix screwdriver. I'm not super interested in the screwdriver. Like, it is nice and this thing twirls. It's a fidget spinner. But they have these screw heads that, if we can see carefully, actually are square. Like, they're not filed to a point. And so it will actually fill the screw head and not damage them as much, which I think is really, really cool. I think like the ones that are sort of ground to like a blade point, I thought that's what, say, Rolex would use, but my understanding is what they actually use is something closer to this, where it actually fills the screw head, which is cool.
Yeah, you want the fit to be, if there's any play in there, you could strip the screw out. So, you really want, I personally, just as someone who like has to turn screws and put things together and take them apart a lot, I hate slotted screws. I understand why in watchmaking they're so common, because making a very small hex drive or square drive or something like that would be insanely expensive and not always practical. But slotted screws by far are the most prone to stripping. So it's really, really important that the fit is good, because if you don't maintain that pressure on there, you can very easily damage the screw.
Yeah, and interestingly, like the Tudor bracelets use the same, well, very close to the same diameter screw head as the Jubilee, but the Oyster is this big one. So it was a bit annoying. I didn't have something to be able to adjust a Tudor bracelet properly, is what I was missing before. So I pulled the trigger on all of it basically. I wonder what my FXD uses.
Is it fixed mix?
Take it apart. Figure it out.
Yeah, I bought all these tools because I got the FXD recently. You want to be able to play around and everything. I like the look of the way that there's no sort of space for the end link, for sure, like compared to the regular Pelagos. So the regular Pelagos, it sort of curves around the case, but on the FXD, it's this flat sort of look here, which I don't know, just looks a little bit more industrial. I don't know.
Here's my project for you, Ozzy. I think you can pull this off. You see a lot of women recently wear watches as a choker. I want you to wear your FXD as a belt buckle. Make yourself a Velcro belt and wear the FXD as a buckle.
Unfortunately,
that would be
22
a fashion
millimeters
statement.
is pretty small for a belt. I do have a lot of vinyl belts, but not at 22 millimeters. I think it's interesting that they put so many curved angles on this fixed part when no one will ever see it. Well, not much anyway. Like there's a little bit more machining than they really needed to do there.
I think they, my guess is they did that to create relief for the strap, so that it reduces wear on the strap over time. I mean, that's just my guess, but it is a nice
that
detail
inside
to
edge
look
there
at.
is beveled over here.
Mhm.
And then I guess it sort of like shapes the strap a little bit, that it comes down not over a square piece, but over something that's curved.
Is the FXD the same grade titanium that the Pelagos 39 is? It's like grade 2.
Yeah, it looks exactly the same. It's exactly the same. Like I've got the Pelagos in blue, the 42. It's exactly the same.
The first time I saw the FXD, I was somehow put off by it. Again, it's because I'm closed-minded, right? I'm used to that old school fixed spring bar look. But I actually appreciate that they have done something else, right? That they have actually designed a fixed lug watch for the new age, because traditionally, of course, these kinds of pieces were basically with soldered spring bars. So I'm glad they actually went the extra mile to design something new. I appreciate this. And it does look like a very cool horological belt buckle when it's stripped out of all the,
like that,
so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, it also looks like those little nylon straps that are on, like, a backpack and shoulder bag straps.
Yes.
You could fix a rucksack with like 2 FXDs on your shoulders when you're walking around town.
Hey, look, it's rugged enough to have that position in your life if you want it to.
Well, the reason why I was asking about the grade of the titanium was because everybody in the watch space, they nitpick all these little things. But
they're idiots.
They argue.
Idiots.
They argue that it scratches, right? So I know this is a recent acquisition for you, but like, I mean, I don't. What do you think it's going to scratch as easy as a stainless piece or?
So I've had the Pelagos 42 for 3 years, and it does scratch easily, but it doesn't matter. Like it's like it matters the least on that watch, and also the scratches are very, very fine in nature because it's such a hard material, and it sort of self-heals. So I remember putting a scratch very early on in my Pelagos 42's life. I had the bracelet, and the bracelet sort of came over the top here, and the crown edge sort of put a little bit of a scratch into the second link, and that scratch is gone now. And it's not magic. It's the outer layer of titanium. Like maybe you can explain a bit better. It is actually an oxidation of titanium. Like the outermost microns are an oxidization, and when you scratch it, you remove that oxidation and you reveal fresh titanium, and then over time it'll become oxidized and will kind of not look like a scratch anymore.
That's
Unless
similar
gouge it.
that's similar to how stainless works. So stainless steel forms, it forms that kind of oxide layer on the surface, which contribute. Obviously, there's all different alloys of stainless, and the metallurgy of affects how each one oxidizes and rusts or doesn't rust. Magnetic, non-magnetic, but yeah, it's the same kind of thing. It develops this microscopic layer on the surface, which actually protects it. I think that's one of the things that makes metals like titanium, stainless steel, aluminum actually be more corrosion resistant than just steel.
Because it isn't
for
trying
example.
to fight it. It's like, yeah, this is the oxidation. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so this has already had like basically a year of use on it already. A year in Aussie expat time, because rotating through my watches, you know, this ended up in, you know, with only owning it since October, it got, I think, 50 something days of use, which puts it as my number 3 or 4 most used watch. It got used as much as this over the course of a full year. So this is like 1 year of use in Aussie expat life. And this went through the hardest use, from camping and hiking and all scallywag stuff. This is the watch that I go to these days. So it's wonderful. It's a very, very wonderful piece. I wore it like 5 times more than I wore the Air King, which I got subsequent to this. So even a new watches allure wouldn't drag me away from this. And I really
know
want
that Air King is just, it's just horrendous.
Yeah, to be fair, that new watch is you know, not very
It's
appealing.
disgusting.
So I can understand why you wouldn't go for it.
I honestly, if they offered me one, I wouldn't. I'm not interested at all. I like how.
Well, if you want
is.
one, you can ask, because I'll give it to you. It's not.
Yeah. Oh no, I know. But even if they're like, oh, do you want one? I'd be like, no, thanks.
For me, I was introduced to H. Moser. I got to meet Bertrand. I forget his last name. Doesn't matter.
Milan.
Yeah, what was that?
Milan.
Yeah.
Milan.
Bertrand. Yeah, and I just, after like looking at all the Mosers, I just wanted a quirky watch, but I wasn't going to pay $55,000 for one. five something, 6 something maybe. So the Air King came into my radar, and not. But I like the new Air King from its release, so that it wasn't really a surprise to me that, you know, I kind of want. I've been sort of wanting it, but I couldn't justify it.
I think Moser, every once in a while, they release some really interesting stuff. Like, I know the Streamliner is very polarizing, but that smoked salmon one that they released, I thought was really, really beautiful. I like the micro rotor, the smaller version that they released. I'm not the textured dial, in my opinion, I think is a better fit for you know, the Pioneer and the Endeavor models. But I like the fact that they shrunk the case down and they made it a micro rotor.
Swiss loves the Streamliner, right?
Yeah,
I like the Streamliner.
Yeah. I thought the smoked salmon was ugly as fuck. Sorry for the words, but I really, really didn't like it. And when they show it for the first time, I was looking at them like, you're not serious. I mean, this is a prototype, right? It still can change. Yeah, it's still gonna change. They're like, no, that's the final product and everything.
What was ugly about it to you? Because I saw it at Watch Time, and I thought it looked cool.
The dial. The dial. They went from that beautiful green dial, and they discontinued it, and they put that. I don't know. It's just not appealing, and it has like vertical brushing, and I don't know. It was not good, in my opinion. It was really not. It looked unfinished. It looked unfinished in my eyes. And they said, you know what? We like it so much. This is gonna be the final product, indefinitely.
What?
Like, the Streamliner now is gonna be this, and this only. This is never gonna change. I was like,
I
oh
saw
my
a Streamliner
God.
with a.
Yeah, I was like,
they're just
oh my God,
pulling
they lost it.
The green is amazing. Like, that's my favorite one.
And all of us, I was with a group of friends, and all of us, like, one by one, we secretly went to them afterwards, and we're like, guys, you cannot do this. That's not possible. You're making a mistake. And they were like, no, believe us. It's gonna be great. And apparently the backlash was so bad that they said, you know what? It's gonna be a 1-year model, and then we have to do something else.
Well,
and that's why now
It's a write-off. This one's a tax write-off.
They also released that. They released that weird ass crypto watch. Like that, I thought was.
Yeah.
Mean, listen,
but that is a troll watch. They make troll watches.
Yeah,
That's true. It is interesting, but I just remember the way that Ed was talking about it. And I know there's a lot of people that believe in crypto. I've openly criticized it on this show many times, so I won't get into it. Bitcoin just surged recently. I'm sure a lot of people, are doing quite well if they were invested in it.
I'm
But
retiring this year. Yeah.
because of crypto, good for you. Good for
Well,
you,
there's a
man.
lot more in my portfolio than crypto, but yeah, I'm probably retiring this year.
Good for you, man. Good for you. Congratulations.
We'll see. If it holds.
But the way that Ed talked about it and just like the whole NFT thing, it was like,
Oh, the NFTs are stupid.
I was like, this is like, I mean, it's to me, I think a lot of it is snake oil. And
Sure is.
Oh,
I
it is.
I
It
don't,
is
I don't disagree.
100%.
I don't know. So that's my opinion. I mean, I'm
Bitcoin's
glad.
the only exception.
Yeah,
I'm
they were
glad.
also talking about the metaverse and shit like that.
I think
I'm glad that-
Moza, when they make serious watches, it's a very good brand, and I think they have some great designs, and I think at the price point they are very good. Even on the secondary market, you can find some great deals on them. The Streamliner, I just never liked the aesthetic. To me, it looks horribly outdated. And for some people, I guess that's a nice throwback, combined with the chronograph movement, especially. The new micro rotor, I actually also like, inside and out. But still, overall, to me, that looks 70s in a bad way. And I know that's the genre of the integrated bracelet watch anyway, so it's probably not quite fair and maybe even hypocritical of me to say that, being a huge fan of Gérard Janta's designs, at least the Royal Oak. But that's, you have to connect with a watch on the emotional level, I think, at that price range especially. And Moza just doesn't do it for me. The Streamliner doesn't do it for me.
I mean, I like the fact that, again, to Swiss's point of like, who the fuck is going to buy that thing? Like, I like the fact that there are people out there that have that experience for something that I find like endearing, that I'm attracted to. And I'm not always the person who wants to cut against the grain and, be, oh, look, I'm just wearing this ugly thing because everyone hates it, but I think it's cool. But there is a small part of me that I think I appreciate that, like the essay last night, he said something which is kind of funny because it like, to me, it's like, it probably is true, but he was like, yeah, if you go to a watch meetup with that, no one else is going to have one. And it's
That's
like
the best
it's like,
compliment.
I know it's true. It's like no one, like I don't think anyone's gonna, like no one's gonna have it, and I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I love it. It's great. Like I'm really happy. I'm really happy with it, and I kind of like the fact that and I think I'm growing. I think I'm growing into this more. The more time that I invest in this hobby, and the more I think about it, it's like it's cool to be able to do something where it's like, you know what, I'm going to do it because I want to. And I also think that if you can carry yourself with a certain kind of confidence, and style your outfit and your accessories and all the things that go along with it in a way where people that are expecting someone to look a certain way, they might look at you and be like, that guy's a fucking weirdo, like, and he looks stupid. But other people might look at you and be like, that person's really interesting, and they carry themselves with confidence. And although what they're doing is unconventional, like they wear it well. And I think younger people appreciate that, and I've observed just younger generations, Gen Z, and that like weird fashion trends that I don't necessarily agree with, but I love the fact that they're into it. Like I love the fact that people are doing all this weird stuff and being unique and dressing in ways that are probably going to be dated in like 20 years or maybe even less. That to me is like, it's a fun thing about cultural trends in society. Of course,
I don't approve of this message. I just want to say that I think young people, for the most part, have. I mean, I don't even have hair, so I shouldn't even comment on it. But they have awful hairstyles, like all these mullets and bowl cuts. I don't know what the fuck they're thinking. Men wearing pearl necklaces should have never been allowed.
Oh, you don't like Bad Bunny?
I don't actually like Bad Bunny. I like his music, but I think he looks awful. He dresses like he dresses like a young boy who went into grandma's closet.
I think that's exactly what he looks like. Like his style. Like,
yeah, you think I just said that? I think about things I say. St. Peter, have a little respect.
Sorry, I chose my words. I chose my words.
I'm kidding, but yeah, I mean that's the vibe he always gives me.
Check these out. We're on the topic of some funny fashion. Whoa, we got some sick slides. What do you think, St. Peter?
Oof, dude, those look like. I mean, that's like retirement home status.
This is if you've got 2 broken feet.
Yeah, that's what I mean. This is like, it looks like, I don't know. I mean, I guess like disabled core. Maybe that's like a new trend for 2024. Like,
I like the Velcro part of it, to be honest. Like, as a Jewish man getting older, Velcro shoes always have a certain charm to me. But the rest,
this is luxury, St. Peter. This is like
true.
next
Velcro,
level.
Listen, they put Velcro on RMs for a reason, and
Yeah.
I'm not high class enough to understand why, because I'm just a pleb. But if you're putting Velcro on an RM, you might as well put it on everything.
This is medical grade fashion. This is
goes with medical grade titanium watches.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. No, I've worn this to the AD. Begging for my Air King. I said, you gotta get me a watch.
Those are gonna get you the Platona. I know it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You just need a bird on your shoulder, and
it's these are a how would you say, these are a conversation piece, and you go in there,
you know what
around bit.
This looks like shoes that has been designed by an AI.
Mm-hmm.
I think an AI
that's got to be the next shoe, man. That sounds like a good idea.
I mean, let's be more respectful to artificial intelligence. I think AI would have better sense than designing shoes like this.
I mean,
Balenciaga's shoes. I really like their $1,100 sneakers.
But Ozzy, this is very Gen Z. Like, I could totally see kids like rocking these in Soho.
Yeah.
Oh my
but
God.
they would be doing it with like those big, like oversized trousers. Like, YB, what's your take on like those oversized trousers? Those seem to be trending.
Actually, that's one thing I like. When I was younger, I used to wear more tighter fitting stuff, but as time goes on, I started appreciating, things that fit looser. So to me, I like looser fitting pants compared to pants that look like painted on, for sure. So that's a trend that I can certainly get on board with.
I mean, it's classic, right? It's more like a 40s, 50s throwback.
Yeah. But I wanted to say something about what you were pointing out earlier, having at least one conversation piece in the collection, right? And I think in your case, the entire collection expresses your sense of design and taste. And since I've been going hard on you, I should turn my attention to Oz. You know, you can end up with just Rolex and Tudor and have all the, you know, desirable watches, all the pieces that everyone else wants, but not have that one thing, you know, that kind of ties everything together, that makes it look a little more interesting, that makes everyone, in fact, even rethink your more predictable choices. Like, you know,
I get that. I get that. So like I did an SOTC video at the end of the year last year,
Yeah.
obviously, like a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I did an
Watched
SOTC
it.
video, you know, same time the previous year. The previous year, everyone kind of loved the collection. This year, with the addition of the Air King, everyone's just hating on me. And they're not saying it's because of the Air King. I don't know what's going on.
It's because of the Air King. You need to just rock. You need to rock that Air King in those shoes, and you know, probably get some tattoos, and just, you know, open carry, pistol out.
Face tattoos.
Hold on, I'll be right back. I'll be right back, because I did go to the AD with an Air King on, but with a different attire. That's just, you got to see it. I'll be back.
Speaking of AD, so I had this conversation with the guy that I dealt with yesterday, and so I was showing him the IG profile that was posting this Pasha that got me obsessive about it, and that guy also has one of the limited lacquered Dumonts, and the one that he has is the rose gold and cream lacquer, which you know, I don't know if you recall, but on this stream, whatever it was 2 years ago, whenever they dropped that thing, I was like, this is incredible. I really like this piece. And you said, hey, that's going to be really hard to get, but you might, why not give it a shot if you want it? And, you know, at the time that was way over budget for me, but I could have made it work, right? Like I could have made it work if it was offered to me, but I didn't even try. And so I asked my guy yesterday, I was like, did you sell any of those? Like, did any of those get allocated to your clients here at the store? And he said, yes, multiple. So like they sold like at least 2 of them from that boutique. And I didn't even think to ask, because it was like, oh, you know, it's too much money. I can't afford it right now. I have this greater vision, you know, for the whatever. Like
then you had the greater vision and you ended up getting a salmon dialed Pasha. Don't get me started, St. Peter. Come on.
No, the Pasha thing, to be honest, it's like, it's well, the Chrono is, I would say, that was impulsive, right? This is impulsive, right? So like those 2 things for me were very impulsive. Like everything else hasn't been. Like everything else has been very considered.
On the other hand, I have to remind you, and this is something you told me, you also had a dream of going to an AP boutique to ask for a Royal Oak wearing a Pasha because it is a Jahajanta design. So it's not like it was completely impulsive. It was somehow meant to be. But the reason I'm saying this is because I think, you know, one of the things that people like us in big cities do, you know, whether that is Las Vegas, Los Angeles, New York, because we deal with these big ADs, right? People assume that every single thing that anyone would want would go to a preferred client, would go to a VIP, and at worst, in the most unpredictable instance, would be somehow snatched by some ultra-rich tourist who is just passing through the city. That's not always the case. The good thing about these, you know, big corporate ADs with, you know, umpteen number of branches is because they get a lot of allocations, they get a lot of watches, they make a lot of volume. So you gotta, if you actually want a watch like that, and you have been buying watches from them, you have to throw your hat into the ring.
Yeah,
Hey, check it out,
so
St. Pete. This is the most cinematographic shot that's ever been on
dude, this is sick,
on his channel, on Lord's
This
channel.
is sick.
Oh yeah,
That's true.
Well,
I have
now it's
I have the lowest production quality ever. So.
but now it's a competition, you know. So we're
Oh.
dueling now. So you know,
Wait,
the
hold
problem
on.
is
So picture this guy wearing Air King, and let me see if I hold on. Yeah, let's rotate. Okay, guy wearing Air King, and this puppy.
Yes, dude. Yes.
Ooh, that's so cool, though. That's so
check
really
it out.
cool.
Oh, 1996 USA Olympic team.
When did you get
Here
that
we
thing?
go.
You get that in 96, or do you buy that at a vintage shop?
This is new old stock. Like,
oh, that's actually kind of amazing. I love it.
Check out the colors, man. This is just outrageous.
When did you get that?
A long time ago, maybe 10 years ago. I bought it on eBay. It was still in its plastic wrap.
Fuck.
I bring it out whenever I want to make friends. You want to make friends with the guys wearing an Air King and this in Vegas, right?
You don't even have to wear an Air King. Just wear that. You're already
anybody that's wearing a shirt that has giant USA letters on it is a friend
USA.
Yeah. Is there a flag? Is there a flag anywhere on that? Have I seen a flag?
I don't think so.
Oh.
This is the USA Olympic
USA.
team.
There's no American flag on there.
USA.
I don't think so.
USA.
That is
Well,
so
I'd say
fast.
the jacket is a close up of the American flag.
Yeah, that's true. You got the stars. You got stars and bars.
We have a new contender for the flag. You salute this.
Hey, you don't want me to start showing you my garments. But I'm gonna text a picture of that original backdrop that I was gonna put on stream that I mentioned to Lord before, because I think he's gonna appreciate it. I don't know if he's gonna be able to put it on YouTube because
BMW.
What's ironic is this is for the Summer Olympic team, so this is a team jacket, not like Olympics merch or something. But no, I don't mean to say this is official. I just mean this is this isn't about like 1996 Atlanta. This is about the US team at Atlanta, and imagine Georgia in summer. This thing is hot. I don't know. This is the warmest thing I've got. For some reason, it just traps in all of the heat. Doesn't freeze at all.
That's the thing. Like, if you have been collecting jerseys or this kind of material it's incomparable. Nowadays, the jerseys, all this sweatshirts, zip ups, they are made of beautiful technical material. In the 80s and 90s, it was some nasty shit, man. Like, how did athletes actually perform in these?
Oh, okay. Maybe this makes sense. I've never read this before. So it's the official, U.S. Olympic swim team jacket, replica of the award ceremony jacket in support of America's Olympic athletes. So swim team jacket, that makes more sense why it's so warm. Okay. That one's fun. I really have to bring it out on rare occasions because it's starting to fall apart, I think.
I mean,
it's not going to survive too many more rounds of golf.
That coat to me looks like a very Las Vegas kind of coat.
Yeah. It's I wore it a few times in Seattle when I was out drinking or something. I would without fail make new friends in that jacket every time. People would just come out and they say, "Hey man, what the hell? That's a cool jacket." They go out of their way. They would.
Honestly,
the reason why I say it's Las Vegas Las Vegas quality is because I would imagine a tourist, like an American tourist, wearing it there.
Unironically.
Right? Yes, unironically.
I have to say it is very bold, right? I've always wanted a Ralph Lauren US flag sweater, and I realized like I just couldn't wrap my head around it quite. So I got the one that has the polo bear wearing an American flag sweater. So it had to be ironic. I had to approach it like, from one remove. And, God knows I love this country, but it is a bold choice to wear something that USA outside, without having the, tongue-in-cheek, ironic approach.
No. I mean, I wear it ironic. I bought it because I knew it's ridiculous. I secretly hoped that I would sabotage any interest in the Olympics by wearing such an ugly jacket. I hate the Olympics so much.
I'm holding 50 American flags in my hand right now.
Oh my gosh.
That's a feeling,
Yeah, it's the
every flag, every time you have an additional American flag on your person, it elevates your patriotism. Like and it's compounded. It's like compounding interest.
It's true. It's true.
But it's a beautiful flag, and the symbolism I think is really incredible. Because it's like a lot of people, America being this place where that like everybody from around the world comes to, I think makes it be this really interesting place. Like people come here from every other country. Like I met one of my neighbors today who's lived in the building for 20 years, and she's from Ghana, and she came to the country, I think 50 years ago. Yeah, she said Nixon was president when she emigrated to the country on, I believe it was diplomatic status, via her parents. And then, her friend came over. It was crazy. It's like my neighbor who I've seen in the hallway, nice, like older woman, say hello. And she was like, "Hey, can you help me with my phone?" And then, I went up and, clearly she could use a hand, she could use some help. And she's pawning off all these, like, she's like, "I got beers, take some beers." She gave me a full bottle of Bacardi, 2 beers, and a $20 bill, and was like, "Don't go to that store to get my Newport 100s. Go to the other store. Because one store it's 14 and the other store," she's like, "Go to the candy store, because the candy store has the $11 Newport one." I'm like, "Newport one? Are you sure? Are you sure you want to be smoking these?" She just turned 73. She's like, I've been smoking for 50 years. I'm not gonna stop now. I was like, "All right, cool. I'll pick you up a pack." And like that experience to me. I mean, this is also a very New York experience, but that experience to me is a very interesting American experience, and it reminds me of my own unique sensibility and my own unique patriotism with this country. So as critical as I am about its flaws, the older I get, the more it's difficult for me to escape the beauty aspects of it. So I proudly hold these 50 American flags right now.
54, 50 states? Is that what it is?
It must be. I mean, I didn't even make that association. I saw these tiny little, I mean, these are like these little flags that I guess you're supposed to stick in your cheeseburger. Like, remember I showed you that little bag before of those toothpicks?
Cheeseburger.
Or
like what?
Or you can to be a cool guy, you can stick it to your teeth and then squint like Clint Eastwood, like with a little closer.
Yes, that's exactly. But if you're gonna do that, you need the dirty, hairy. What was that? Was that a super Red Hawk? Ozzy, you must know this. What was the dirty, hairy?
I don't know what gun he had.
But it was like a 40. Was it a 44 or was it like 350?
44 Magnum, yeah.
I think it may have been like a Super Red Hawk. But yeah, if you're gonna do the
Isn't that a Ruger?
yeah, Ruger. My stepdad has one of those.
It strikes me that it'd be using Smith and Wesson.
What's the equivalent from Smith?
I don't know, like it's just model numbers of them. It's sort of like Rolex. It's like the 686 or the 292 and stuff like that. So I'm really not familiar.
J body. You got a J.
Wheel.
Do you have a J body?
Yeah, got the Scandium frame.
Nice.
Hey, why don't we have any watches in Scandium?
I don't know.
Well, this bulk metallic glass. Have we talked about that? Have you talked about that on the stream? I mean, I'm sure you
No, not at all. Not at all, actually. But Horology Ancienne has one of those. The one with the BMG bezel and that smoked red dial.
That was the one that Francois was wearing in the talking watches, the recent talking watches.
That's true. That's true.
Bulk metallic glass. Have you looked into this, Ozzy?
No, please.
No.
Tell us more. And you would be the person to learn from.
So when they refer to glass, so it's a relatively new technology. I forget exactly which year it came from, because when AP released this watch, I said, that's fascinating. I've never heard of that bulk metallic glass. I was like, what is it, like ceramic or? But it's actually it's metal, and the way that they form it, it's about the cellular structure. So when you look at it on a microscopic level, the atomic structure of this metal is closer to what the atomic structure of glass is. So that's where the glass comes from. And what
that
it
sounds
does
like marketing to me.
No, it's a real thing.
Physics says everything above helium is a metal. So
no,
technically they're right.
Well, but just remember that glass is this, it's this solid that that forms with heat, and this stuff melts and it forms. It has a cellular the cellular structure, but metallic atomic structures. If you Google to look at this, like AP is not going to show you this, right? Because they want it to
like metal is more like dried peanut butter or something, right? Sort of like
it actually.
Flakes
So what's
stuff.
What's interesting about it, and this is just my recollection of that one Google search I did when this watch was released way back when. But what's interesting about it is, so the cellular structure of typical metals is actually more like a rigid, like crystalline structure that's prone to fracturing, right? So the bulk metallic glass, it allows the alloy to have its inherent shear and tensile strengths or higher shear and tensile strengths of the metal, and so it makes it more flexible without it being soft, right? So it's like super hard, but it's also flexible, so that like that tool of yours that broke, like in theory it wouldn't do that. At least that's how I understand this solid composition to be. So I just read into it that one little bit, but I was like, man, this is like this really.
Which part of it are we talking about here?
I think it's the bezel.
Whole case. Oh, the bezel. Okay.
I think it's the bezel.
The case is titanium, and I think the BMG, the bulk metallic glass, is also an alloy with palladium. It's like mixed with palladium, I think.
So which factory in China makes this?
Hey, don't knock on the Far East.
Well,
I'm not really joking, because like I don't really believe AP have the machines and technology to refine this thing just for one bezel, right? So they got it from somewhere.
Borders, man. Borders was like so last year. We all live on the same planet. Like we're working together to the advancement of like the whole human species.
I think if anyone can say stuff like that on this panel and get away with it, it is probably Aussie expat. You know, I'm sure over time people have seen all of our faces and can put two and two together. So let Aussie just say shit, get it off the chest.
You know the Royal Oak double balance with the skeletonized dial.
Yes, sir.
Or more like open words, whatever you want to say. They have been doing this for years, right? And it is really funny that only last year they finally admitted they were not doing it. It was a contracted company.
Of course.
Oh, ouch! Ouch!
They were keeping it secret for, I don't know, 8 years.
Am I the only one on the panel right now that has a skeleton open work on their Grail list?
These aren't that crazy expensive anymore, right? Like we're talking still 6 figures, but
a whole list of just skeletonized watches, you mean? Or
no? So
as your
well, you might remember that time we hung out in the city.
Yeah.
You know, when we got food. So I have this list of 7 Grails, right? Which everybody always laughs about. They're like, 7? Like you're only supposed to have 1, but
7 deadly Grails.
7 deadly Grails. So it's this one I think is amazing, but it's actually for AP it's the black ceramic version, because I think AP does ceramic better than anyone else in my opinion, and I think the Royal Oak design, especially because of how flat all the facets are and the way that they reflect the light in black specifically. Like I really don't like the blue, really don't like the white, not interested in it at all. What's beautiful about the black,
I agree with you on that.
When you see it, the reflections, the nature of the ceramic, and the contrast between high polish and brushing that they get, it produces incredibly deep black tones when it's reflected in one way, not like black polishing, but close to it. And then you rotate it just a little bit and it's bright white. And so it creates this just spectacular, reflective, dazzling. Like I don't even know how to describe it.
You don't get that from the other colors, from what I can see in video.
It's really incredible the way they have applied that finish to like the whole Royal Oak treatment to the ceramic. And I think St. Peter is right. It comes through most dramatically in the black, although the blue has been ruined now by Francois. The minute as he is going around and out, he has continued to do damage. The guy says, oh, the blue one, we actually didn't want that blue. That was the only one we could actually produce. We actually wanted to make a navy blue, and that's going to come out soon. So now AP will never be able to sell any of this blue until the new one comes out. Because the guy said it was just, that was.
It's going to be good. He said it was going to be good. Yeah, that was very funny. But I'll say, like, look, the Chinese manufacturers are pretty good, but they don't always deliver what you ask them.
So I have friends. I have friends that colleagues at my current organization, past coworkers, friends that I studied industrial design with, in undergrad. They do a lot of work in China, and they oftentimes have to fly out there and do face-to-face meetings with people. And so one of my friends I got lunch with recently, and he explained kind of the experience dealing with them. And culturally, what he explained to me is that culturally, it's very difficult for anyone in their whole chain, I'm talking like from the bottom all the way up to the top, to admit wrongdoing, right? There's this kind of like shame involved in that, but mistakes happen. It's just it's human nature. We're organic beings, and if you're doing bespoke products or you're doing a prototype something that's never been made before. You need to make new tooling for it. You have a new injection mold process, whatever the case may be. But what he's experienced dealing with manufacturers in China for, the past couple of decades is that they're very difficult to communicate with because they don't ever want to admit that they're having any kind of problems. So a bunch of time will go by. And so this person who, I was having lunch with, he's actually Canadian, but he's been in America most of his life, so more or less American. But he knows he might have to go over there to oversee this new product he's trying to get manufactured, but he is genuinely afraid of traveling to go there, and for a number of reasons. Like, he's got a kid, he's got a wife, and he's like, I might get stuck, like there might be another COVID, like who the hell knows what's going to happen. But he shared that anecdote with me about his process kind of dealing with them, and I thought that lack of transparency in the communication about the process to me was really fascinating. And part of me gets it. Like, I get, like, you don't ever want to admit that you did something wrong, but sometimes it's better for the holistic nature of the project to say, we're having issues with this, we need to start from scratch, we need to go back to the drawing board, or that whole first batch that we did is trash. Like we just need to make new ones because the quality control is not there. Because you don't want to give the impression to your client that you lack competence or the ability to execute this work. It's an interesting conversation. I'm getting a notification on my ear that my tech here is about to crap out on me. So I just want to thank young Brando and the panelists for giving me the opportunity to do my do the cherry popping semi-pro unboxing of the piece that no one else at the watch meetups is going to have for certain.
Just to spite you, I will get the new vintage one for 2000 and wear it to every single watch meetup that I will catch you on
and I will proudly challenge everyone there to say, which one do you think is better? And my guess is you're gonna win, but it's okay.
I'm gonna win because I'm more charismatic, but that's okay.
It's true. You are. I'm working on that. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure as always. Lord, thanks so much for the opportunity. I'm going to work on the setup. It's going to be better next time. Promise.
Hey man, look, no pressure, but we would like to see you once every so often. I mean, it's if you are cool with that. So think about
sharing.
That in the meantime.
100%. And I apologize for being absent, but my situation is always in flux, so I'm trying to make it work.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, St. Peter, for sharing this, and thank you, Swiss and Aussie, for coming on and sharing your opinions, and in Aussie's case, sharing your new toys and some mind-blowing pieces from your wardrobe, Aussie. This has been amazing.
I'll leave it on this. USA. Thanks, guys.
I think that's a good point to drop off for us as well. Aussie, Swiss, or Americaine. Do you have something to add now?
Well, I hope we will see Saint-Pierre before this summer when he will get his Submariner.
I hope so. I think I think he will get it. I think he has a good relationship with that.
Wait, what's he asking for?
Just a no-date Submariner. Submariner.
He didn't need to buy anything for that.
Submariner.
What the hell?
Well, he actually likes the stuff he buys, Ozzy.
No, there's no question. I'm just like, you don't need to buy anything get a no date sub. What the
It's
hell?
true. It's true. You know, the thing is, that purple patch the industry experienced post-pandemic has kind of muddled our vision and confused our minds. And people have these perception about, like, you know, oh, you know, Patek is too much for me. I can't get anything, and everything is over retail. Same thing with Rolex. People still think that everything is so hard to get. And for some people, and that's how the hype train kind of takes off, that's actually extra motivation, right? You know, oh, I can't get it, I have to get it, right? I was actually talking to this older English gentleman who had the 5-digit Daytona with the black dial 16520. And the only reason he got it, he's like, I didn't even like watches at the time. It was like, you know, in mid-90s, someone told me that you can't get it. I had to get it. It's ridiculous. I mean, like, you know, we would think that this is something that was born yesterday. But
men need challenges. It's
exactly.
fine. It's fine.
Exactly. So it's.
I mean, yeah, I got all of mine when it was the hardest to do. That's the feather
true.
in my hat.
But what I mean is, like, you know, that drives a lot of people on, but it puts a lot of people off as well. So some people think, like, you know, oh, you know, it's hard to get, so I might as well just stay out of the whole thing. You know, I don't want to go into these games. Like, you know, I don't want to entertain the authorized dealers in that way. So people get into that mindset, and they really don't need to, because, you know, to get something like you know, Explorer in two-tone, Sea Dweller in any configuration, Submariner no date or date. If you are willing to wait for a few months, these are exactly the kinds of things that you can get. I have a friend who got the Bluesy in less than 2 months. You know, it's like it's possible. It's possible. You don't have to, you know, you don't have to sweat it for the most part.
Yeah. I think if you just called enough ADs, well, called in, like actually show up, you could get a no date. Maybe in a week or two.
Did you know I finally got the stupid Royal Oak?
You did? I didn't know.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I got the Royal Oak in end of October last year.
Oh yeah.
After almost 3 years. Yeah.
Do you have it right now? Can you show it in like?
I don't have a camera. Yeah, I don't have a camera.
Next time.
Which one did you get?
Oh, wait, I can send you a link to the watch itself. Give me a second.
Please, yeah. Let's take a look. I think it was the 37 mil with the opaline white dial, I think.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I want the 41 in white.
So there is I put the link in the chat.
37 would also suit me. I mean, people tell me that's what I should get, but
so
I don't know.
I was waiting for a white dial, but for some obscure reason, they discontinued the white dial.
In 37,
so,
there's no white dial in 37 anymore, yeah.
So I got this one instead, and it is this like icy blue dial.
It's better.
Cool.
It's the high
Everyone I'm talking to, they're like, hey, it's even better. But I still wanted the white, but I guess I cannot. So this
is cool.
This was
I
it.
love the
I
current generation much more. I really hated the stupid chapter ring on
I
the
really
previous
love
gen.
this watch. In fairness, compared to the previous one, yeah, they made a lot of very nice updates. Movement has been updated. Bracelet has been updated. The dial, the markers have been updated. Pretty much everything has been updated, but you can barely see it, and that's what is really Well, they also updated the price. I mean, when I went on the list, it was at $19,000, and now, well, look, it's I paid 23 and a half in my currency, and yeah, from 19 to 23 in 2 years. Ouch. But I mean,
I think, yeah, I've been tracking AP prices, and I think it's going to be it's going to be bold, but I think there's like a 10 or 20% chance that they'll get onto the bubble in terms of.
What's I have to say, I am pretty lucky because, well, there is two things. First of all, this is my first watch at Audemars Piguet, and I always was told you never get a real look as your first watch. Plus, it is apparently with that ice blue dial, which is, you know, a pretty hype, or
Hype.
pretty sought after. It was this
Very
or the
sought
gray,
after.
and the gray is a bit monochromatic.
I
To
find
me.
it, I find it undesirable.
It's not bad, but I don't like it just because I think the gray is the reason they discontinued the white, because it went from like slate dark gray to a light gray.
Yeah.
And I think they were thinking, oh, it clashes with the white. Well, let's discontinue the white. And yeah, so I'm not happy about this, but yeah. Yeah, you know, and this I was quite surprised. You know what they said? They said, "Oh, you are extremely lucky because usually this watch right there, we only sell them to women. Not as the women want them. No, they choose to keep these watches only for women."
That's so strange.
I was like, okay. So okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, I guess. But yeah, apparently now if you express interest to a watch like this one, they would try to discourage you and say, no, this is only for women.
Interesting,
And,
because the size
I have seen
close to unisex. I think it is slightly smaller. I would still have guessed that
it is on my wrist.
It's not.
I mean, they had the previous, like in the early 2000s, they had the 36, which was a man's watch. You know, it wasn't the woman's watch. I mean, the watch is perfectly sized for me, and I am a 6.3 tall man. So
no,
I don't know.
Interesting that they would even phrase it like that. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And the Royal Oak, in my opinion, it wears true to its size. Like I always say, the design makes it big, much bigger than it's like. No, it wears true to its size.
It's not only the fact that they told it to me, or the way they said it. It's the decision itself is extremely interesting, in my opinion, that they would reserve some watches for women only.
It doesn't make sense.
In my opinion,
why? I really don't get it. I mean, also 37 for a non-jam set watch, it's actually a pretty unisex watch. I just don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah, totally. And I checked on I was looking at the Rolex forums, and I've seen some posts of people saying the exact same thing, saying that the sales assistants would say that this is reserved for women, and that they cannot get it.
Interesting, because I've got a small wrist. I think if I had better decision making and taste, I would go for the 37. I wouldn't say no to a 37 for sure, but for me, I think the 41's okay. But Yeah, you're right. It's
The
just such a weird
the
thing.
41, the 41, I think, in my opinion, has weird proportions. I don't enjoy the looks of the 41. I think the 39 obviously is like the reference, the best looking, that really kept that 1970s Royal Oak look.
By
But
39, do you mean jumbo?
yeah, the jumbo, for example.
Okay.
But they are a bit too large for me. When I try them on my wrist, the lug to lug is too big, and it would
Well,
it would
you lose the sort of the integrated bracelet aspect of it more quickly because you can't see it anymore. like if it's only watch head on top of your wrist, you're not seeing enough bracelet
yeah, and
to get that impression.
it would hang over the wrist. It like floats over it.
That's how you meant to wear an AP. It's like the next Panerai.
Yeah.
The offshore line. You're meant to see air gaps between the side of the watch, underneath the lugs there. It's meant to be big wind tunnels.
You know what? I had high expectations because I was always told that the Royal Oak has the most perfect bracelet.
No.
That it is both the best looking and the most comfortable.
I know. I saw in Rolex forums someone describing Rolex's finishing compared to Royal Oak as like caviar versus Purina, cat food. And honestly, like having actually felt these watches in person and looked closely, I think they're very close, and I actually prefer Rolex. I don't know what to say.
So look, maybe it has better finishing, but at least Rolex doesn't catch my hair, because the Royal Oak actually does catch my hair like a few times a day, and it can get annoying. And I am a hairy man.
Yeah, same here. The thing is, for me, Royal Oak has always been about the aesthetics of it. So I certainly get what you mean, and I have heard from so many people that it's the most comfortable bracelet, but there's no such universal. Whenever I borrowed it from friends and other collectors and wore it for a few days, to me it fit nicely, but there's no universal. Some people swear by the Jubilee, some people prefer the Oyster. It's I don't think there's some people love butterfly style clasps, some people love single fold déployant, others can't wear them. It's like about the contour of your wrist, about how the buckle is finished. There are so many different factors, so you have to always take everything with a pinch of salt on the online forum.
And at about the same time I got the Royal Oak, I also got a new 36mm Datejust with a Jubilee bracelet. And the Jubilee is so much better. It is so much more comfortable, at least. So yeah,
I've been wearing the Batgirl today. I'm not as enthused by the Jubilee. I think some aspect of the Oyster's comfort is that it doesn't have all those gaps, and the weight is a little more. I think, at least on the link.
Yeah.
So it sort of
I have
more
both.
like a bracelet.
I have both. I used to be Oyster purist. For example, I think the GMT has to be on the Oyster bracelet. So I also have a Batman with the Oyster bracelet. But having this new Jubilee edition.
What dial did you get?
I had the mint green.
Okay.
Mint dial.
Yeah. What you like that dial? I'm not going to review too much. I'm not a huge fan, but I get it.
I do like it.
It's the right style of dial for the Datejust.
I think it's beautiful,
one of the
and
better ones. Yeah.
you know what? It was almost as hard to get as the Royal Oak, because I've been waiting for a year and a half for that watch,
Wow.
which is pretty crazy.
It
I was
took
about
my
to
wife
go.
2 years to get the Palm DJ. So yeah, for some reason, like
Yeah, I was
specific
about
dials on
to
the
storm
Datejust are
into my
actually
AD
hard.
and curse them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want a specific dial, it's very hard if you want a specific configuration as well. Unfortunately. Did
yeah,
you?
and yeah, because they told me if you want the same watch but with an oyster bracelet, no problem. If you want with the smooth bezel, no problem. It's just you want the Jubilee with the fluted bezel and the special dial. All these three together, it's like
It's like
really hard.
It's like a trading card game. It's just random pick. It's like they don't at the factory know.
And then you know what? I look at these other configurations. So the Datejust with the oyster bracelet and a smooth bezel, and I ask myself, who the hell buys these things?
No,
and guess what? Today I saw
St. Peter.
Yeah. No. Exactly. I think so. My wife actually wanted the Palm DJ dial, but she wanted oyster and smooth because one, that's how they marketed that particular dial, and two, I think it's an appropriate choice because the dial itself is very complex. You don't need the complexity of Jubilee and fluted to give it that extra something. That being said, she's very happy with the Jubilee and fluted, and in retrospect, it's the perfect choice for her collection because she doesn't have a Jubilee bracelet anything, and she will not get a Jubilee bracelet anything unless it's on that Datejust. So
I will say that the combo of Jubilee plus fluted bezel is extremely blingy.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is very blingy. It really shines like a disco ball.
But it's also Swiss. It's also Datejust. That's how Datejust is supposed to be.
Yes, I agree totally. I agree totally.
Yeah, it's my wife's least expensive watch, but it is also the most flashy. Out of all of the watches, it's the most flashy.
Well, you know, it's funny because I have my Moser with diamonds on the bezel. It's not as flashy as the Datejust.
Right.
Just to tell you.
So I was talking about it actually recently that there's a different concept of flex. When you want to flex on regular people, you got to pull out the Jubilee bracelet, and if it's a Datejust, it has to have the the fluted bezel because for them it just screams Rolex, 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 Rolex.
Yeah, it is one of the most recognizable.
Yeah, so you're flexing on them with the big capital R for Rolex, but if you actually want a flex watch, it's not going to be a Datejust. But it's kind of ironic. On regular people, you pull out the Datejust, but for watch connoisseurs, you're going to pull out the Royal Oak.
Yeah, that's my watch right there. With a green dial, blue dial.
And it's also on another hairy wrist, mind you. This is
my wrist is actually it looks just like that.
Yeah, and
similar.
So does mine.
So a normie is not going to think this is any important watch. This is garbage.
It's interesting though, like that that it's now thought of. Is it Swiss? Is it just that particular dial color that they try to make female exclusive, or is it just the?
I don't know. I have looked onto the
0.
Yeah, I have looked onto the forums, and I really think it is the size. The size. I think they really point the men to the 41 and the women to the 37 and under.
How recent is this phenomenon?
Very strange.
Yeah, very strange.
How recent do you think that they said that? Because here's my theory. they don't actually have enough demand anymore on the 41 millimeter to keep propping it up to maintain its exclusivity. Because if they're telling people, no, you all have to pile in on the 41, that's sort of unnecessary, right? Like if they wanted a 37, why not sell it to them? But if they're feeling like they're sort of not able to maintain its exclusivity, then that doesn't just mean that they can't sell 41s, which is not true, but it means that they can't make them feel like it's so hard to get anymore that they have to purchase some offshores and some codes.
Maybe.
That's the only way I would see it. Like, I mean, why would you tell them not to get that? It's like if they're struggling, if they think like this is the last stand on the 41 to keep people, buying.
I just think that they really want to push the fact that now 37 is also open to women. Because when you think of a watch for women, it's usually 32 mil with a quartz movement.
Yeah,
you know what that means?
They
means
want
it's
to heavily discourage you in particular from going to these sub 40 mil watches, so that your next purchase is an offshore and
But I mean, that's
and a
extremely
code that's
outdated
much
thinking.
bigger.
I mean, women buy whatever they want anyways nowadays. Like women who are interested in watches, they
right,
they
but
size
it's not. Look, it's not. They don't say this to women. They say this to men, because now when men will have to gift a watch to their partner, I don't know what. Usually, you would think, okay, a 32 millimeter with a quartz movement. Well, now they will think, oh, the 37 is the woman's watch, and the 37 mil is very expensive.
Wait, that's okay. Now we figured it out basically. So that's the way to get that watch. You are buying it for your fiance. That's
I
your
just have
wedding
to
gift
say that it's for
your
a
bride-to-be.
woman.
Yeah, that's for your bride
Wow.
to be. That's the way to get it done.
My wife wouldn't
Yeah,
mind a
figured it
Royal
out.
Oak. That might be like, if that's my 1-2 option, because I've asked my wife, she actually wants a Royal Oak. She says I'd like one, but I didn't think
Smart
it would
woman.
be worth
That's
the
a
time.
keeper.
But if she says like 37's a way to go, wait, do they have the green dial in the 37?
I don't think so.
Only in gold. They have it in gold with a green dial. It's actually beautiful.
They gotta stop fucking around with these dial colors. This is ridiculous. The green dial on the 41 isn't bad. I'd potentially pick it over the blue. It's a very subtle green, very, very subtle. Initially, I thought it was a black watch that had a hint of green, but it's a little bit more than a hint. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But what did you need to do to actually get one? I haven't even set foot in a good AP boutique.
I trash talked them.
You'll never get me one. I dare you. I double dare you.
Yeah, you know what? You cannot sell me that watch. You just
I bet you cannot sell me. You're not even allowed to. You don't have the decision-making power to do that.
No,
Well,
but
he waited 3
um,
years to start with, right?
yeah, I waited 3, but it was also very lucky for me, because I waited for, to be fair, I waited 3 years like a good boy. But they treated me like shit. They threw me out. They didn't give a shit about me or whatever. They never called me back. They never gave me. I told you it was discontinued. Like at the end of the 50 years thing, it was discontinued. They never told me. Not an email, not a message, nothing. I waited 6 months for nothing because I didn't know. And at some point, I was at evening event, and I was talking to a woman, and I was explaining that they threw me out. They're a piece of garbage. I hate them, and I told, but it was I was not exaggerating. I'm telling the truth. They really threw me out, like you would take garbage out on Sundays. It was. it was pretty brutal, you know.
They grabbed you by the collar and the bottom of your
Pretty
jacket, and
Pretty much, yeah. and and I was saying this, and I didn't know, but she works over there. She is a SA at that exact same place, and she was like, "Yeah, of course, this is unacceptable and everything." And at some point, she came to me and she said, "You know what? It is a Saturday evening right now. This Monday at 10 a.m. you come by the boutique and you take a rendezvous with me, and then we're gonna talk." And that was in July. I went over there because I told her, I said, "Oh, I'm never going back over there. They're, pieces of shit. They don't want me. Well, fuck them." And she said, "You know what? You come next week. You come with me. We will talk and we'll see what we can do." And I had a beautiful moment with her. I was very well treated, everything, like it should be in the first place. And 3 months later, I got my watch.
Oh, very nice.
So I guess I was also very lucky to cross paths with her. And she is awesome. And I am really thankful for her. And her actually giving a shit about clients.
I have a potential intro into the AP boutique here, but I haven't pulled the trigger just because I don't know. I'm not really prepared to do anything for this watch. Like, I'm willing to go in. I'm willing to be treated normally, and basically I want an RO, and I don't really want to buy anything else.
Yeah, and
Not a good case.
The what really broke my heart is that afterwards I was invited at a AP event. Now that I am actually a client and I'm part of the club, I guess.
Yeah.
I learned that the stupid dickheads that I went to in the first place and didn't give a shit about me, he is the #1 salesperson in the world when it comes to selling codes. He's the best seller in the world when it comes to codes. And I was like,
is this a derogatory term, or was this really a trophy, an achievement?
He's
the best code seller.
For him.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure the company loves him. He's the #1 employee.
No, but who told you? Are they telling you in a way that, this guy just treats the customers like shit? He just gets everyone to buy codes and then burns them, or was this like,
yes,
he's really smart, he gets them to buy codes?
Yeah, kind of both, because everyone knows exactly what's going on, right? And it's pretty stupid. But did you know that AP had a boutique and a salon in Barcelona, and both of them they got wiped out?
Why?
All the personnel fired, and they are gonna remake them entirely because the whole chain, from the basic employee all the way to the general manager of the place, they were all corrupt. 100% corrupt. And the only solution for AP was to basically fire everybody and rebuild everything from scratch. That's how bad it was.
I think this is what happened to I think that's what happened to a place that and brand that I'm familiar with here at some point. I will not name anything further than that, but I've seen that game happen. Entire management chain fired, and
it happened. It happened twice over in the South Coast Plaza AP boutique by now. Yeah, it happened twice.
I hear the Venetian boutique is done. My understanding of the situation is that it's like currently family owned. They don't want to sell it, so AP's just not sending them watches. Like, it's just like that's that. You can have the boutique, but you won't get any watches.
Yeah, but I mean that was Swiss's argument earlier, right? You know, you can be an authorized dealer, but you know, we will only give you, you know, a batch or two here and there of watches that you don't necessarily want, and let's see how you perform with that.
Yeah.
Here's a full batch of gold codes. Here, sell this.
But I mean, look, if you're smart, you just promise everyone that they'll get the Royal Oak afterwards.
Exactly.
They don't know you're not gonna get them.
Yeah.
And then you just say, "Oh, but you have to wait.
They don't know that the Royal Oak that you were working towards was just allocated to Swiss.
Yeah. Oh, guess what? Now this watch is only for women. Too bad.
What was it? Did you shave off your beard when you went to pick it up?
Yeah, I made my hair, got a brushing and everything.
Yeah, they tried to.
I think it's costly. Yeah.
Try to look less masculine. But no, that's the trick. We have found it. We have found it. It's going to be, you know, for your bride to be. This is this is my gift to my bride.
Swiss. So is that watch now? How do we say? Could that be my first AP? And then, you know, but make it easier. It's for my wife, and then the second AP is like the white dial 41mm. It's possible.
I don't know, man. Because if you asked me that question last year, I would say that you would never get any watch from AP whatsoever. You know that now they have waiting lists for the simple codes. The codes, they have wait lists.
I don't believe
it. I don't believe that. I don't believe it. No, I don't believe anything's got a wait list except for.
I don't believe anything AP says ever.
No.
at this point, also, you know, it's just.
No, I mean, have you seen secondary prices? They're getting pretty damn low. They're getting pretty, like, whether or not they'll get into that bubble range.
People, they still have to buy them.
It's going to be pretty close. It's getting pretty close.
People still have to buy them if they want the new chronograph, the new Royal Oak chronograph. You want that? Oh, but you have to buy a code first.
But I have to say this, Swiss. I mean, especially in light of what Oz said, most of the watches in the AP, Patek, and Rolex range are almost there.
Yes, I agree, 100%.
In their pre-pandemic range. I think, you know, again, this is no investment advice. I'm just making an educated guess. But I think even the jumbo, like a 15202, will probably return to the pre-pandemic price point by the summer. This is how.
What does that mean?
This is the
direction. What's the price range for that?
Sub 40.
Wow.
That's what it's going to be, I think, by the summer. That's been my feeling.
Because I mean, if there's one thing I got out of the Benny whatever his name is,
Benamias?
he did talk about just how limited the 202 really was, which was an interesting data point.
Yeah, but that's the 16202. The new one will probably trade for a little more, but I think it will be under. You know, it's not going to be, I think, more than twofold anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to get the 15202, which, you know, to a purist like me is more desirable because it still has the JLC movement. It's the last one to have the JLC movement, and it has the exhibition case back. So for me, it's the sweet spot actually between the original jumbo and the 16202. I think that's what I want anyways. But again, that being a personal preference, that will be, I think, around or under 40 by the summer. Maybe the 16202, it might be 55, maybe 50. I don't think it's gonna stay. Even those watches, I don't think they're gonna stay at their hype levels. Guys, I'm getting really sleepy, and
Okay.
it's past midnight here, so I'm going to wrap it up. I was actually, before Swiss shared his news, I was going to close it then, but this is as good as any. Swiss, wear your 2 new pieces in great health.
Thanks.
And of course, first and foremost, our friend St. Peter, congratulations on your new Cartier Pasha with the salmon dial. Someone has to buy these things, as Swiss.
Hey, he likes it. He buys what he likes. That's how it goes.
I like the
that's how
Pasha
it's
with the
supposed to be.
cage. I do like that.
Which
he
one?
has the passion for the Pasha. Yeah, the one with the grill.
The grill. I actually like the
cage
grill.
thing.
I
The
love it.
prison Pasha.
They still, you know that you can get that from the Cartier boutique. If you buy a Cartier Pasha from them, even if the model doesn't come with it by default, you can get a matching grid or grill
Really?
from them. Yeah.
It's like a module that attaches on top. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty
I
cool.
didn't know that.
Well, that's cool. Well,
Yeah, in fact,
that's cool.
there's like you see how St. Peter showed that tool for the bracelet.
Yeah.
It's like there's like a special tool to remove and attach the grid on top of the crystal. So it's a nifty little thing. All right, thank you everybody.
Well, thank you.
Don't forget to hit the like button. Thank you, Aussie and Swiss, and of course St. Peter for jumping on the panel. I am going to see you all tomorrow. Finally, there is going to be the reverso episode for the references and auction results series. So I look forward to seeing any of you, if not all of you, then. That's going to be again tomorrow around the usual live stream time. I'm sure it will be a great episode, like the first 4 installments of the series. You guys know I've done something on the generations of the FP Jean Tourbillon. I've done one on Patek minute repeaters, one on the Rolex Daytona, especially on the Paul Newman variations, the Daniel Roth era Breguet, and tomorrow it's going to be Reverso with some special selections and how they perform on the secondary market as well. Of course, we are going to talk a little bit about the history of the design and how it was revived in the 90s as well. So I'll look forward to seeing you then. Until then, take care, everybody. Good night.
Thank
Hit
you.
the like button on the way
Cheers.
out. Bye.